If you can hear the sound of my voice, if you can hear my voice, you're hearing my voice. If you can hear my voice, if you can hear the sound of my voice, you are on LSD. 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 You are on the Lonely Screen Delicatessen channel.
Pointing fingers.
If you can hear the sound of my voice, then you're hearing it better than you ever have before, and you are on LSD. Not the mind-altering substance that can elevate your consciousness to a completely different plane of existence, but the podcast, the Lonely Screen Delicatessen. Here with me, as always, is my best homie, the Pinoy boy toy, Mikey Noveloso. And as always, I am here, the Cuban eating a Reuben, the Reuben being a deli sandwich, that being my wife. That's the euphemism. The Cuban eating a Reuben, Andrew Rodriguez. Today we have leveled up. I don't know if you can tell by the picture quality or by the audio or by this fancy microphone arm that I've got in my office currently. It's not just Legos and weed and guns in this bitch anymore. It's fucking audio equipment. I spent a whopping couple $100 and now we're here. We've leveled up, goddammit. Mike has been trying to bring me into the modern era for the better part of a year, and I finally arrived. They put the chip in me. I'm here. Fucking A. How you doing, Mike?
I exist.
I think that's clippable.
That is clippable.
That's clippable right
Somebody
there.
clip that.
That's the level up clip.
Yeah, somebody clip that.
Oh, man. What a pleasure to be heard and hearing you so much more clearly. I really thought that I was at the pinnacle with my 5-year-old, 7-year-old iPhone. And you've brought me out of
I was trying to tell you. I've been telling you, you know.
You have, but I'm the kind of guy who I'm ready to crank up my car to race a Tesla. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm ready to take the Studebaker to the moon. I don't buy into all the tech shit. I break a lot of it, unfortunately.
I mean, it was pretty smooth though tonight, setting you up, right?
I will give you a lot of credit. Yeah, you make me feel more patient when it comes to technology.
It's just shit. I don't know, man. It's not crazy.
No, it's not crazy, but it definitely, for me, it's like anything else. If it's not in your wheelhouse, it's going to create you a certain degree of stress, I would imagine, or whatever you want to call it. And fucking it gets my asshole clenching up like nothing else than technological bullshit. So I'm happy we got that one. But this is going to be just a big thing in general for me as far as everything that I do utilizing my voice, whether I need to patch in stuff for songs or doing voiceover work in the future here. Yeah, you may have turned me into a perfectionist. This might be bad for the world around me.
Or very good.
I mean, good for my art. Good for the things I'm trying to produce.
Good for art.
You know.
Hell yeah, man.
I might be like John Lennon and start becoming a shitty dad on purpose just to be a better musician.
Nah.
I like my kid too much.
Right.
We hung out a bunch tonight. Jesus shit.
I'm just treating my son like a man now because I'm lazy and a bad parent.
No, it's not laziness. You're doing him a favor, bro. No one's gonna rescue you.
Well, I literally told him
all the time.
I literally told him, like, when my dad and my wife were hanging out and he was being bad and they were like being nice to him, I was like, no, you're in trouble. If you're looking for somebody to be nice, go look for your mom or your grandpa and go cry to them. And I was like, that was harsh, but he's 3, so you know he's an adult now.
It's necessary for kids to have a good grasp of like limits, because they're gonna test those shits day in and day out, every chance they get. My daughter's 6. She's constantly trying to figure out how to get over. She's constantly trying to find out where she stands. That's just a part of what kids do, and like they're
I gotta
monsters.
Yeah, I gotta do it now before he's bigger than me, so because he's already fucking huge. Yeah.
And he's a man. It's a different. The consequences differ.
Yes.
And not that there aren't consequences for women, because those consequences differ as well, right? I have to teach my daughter, like, hey, if you're walking through a parking lot late at night, I teach her to be aware differently than I would have to teach my son. Yeah. With my son, it's like, hey, be aware somebody might try and rob you or test you or whatever. For a girl, it's like, hey, you may be preyed upon in a different manner, and you have to. That's why she goes to jiu-jitsu. That's why I teach her how to shoot a fucking bow and arrow. That's why somebody posted recently a thing about like how parents with how it's like corny how dads with daughters post the prom picture with the gun.
I think I saw,
And I put in the thing where I like, honestly, like the way I'm raising my daughter, man, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to be receiving that call. I'm going to be receiving the call like, oh my God, Dad, he went too far. And now he's in the bathtub. Like I'm ready for the cleanup call. I'm ready for the, hey Dad, how do you get rid of bones? Like I'm
Yeah.
ready for that.
I need help getting there.
Exactly.
Maybe
Where it's like, hey, Daddy's
sometime
gonna come over there
soon.
with the fire pit, and we're gonna have
Yeah.
we're gonna sit and have a cookout, you and me, and we eat the kill. Like
Yes.
I'm not scared of her not being able to take
Yeah.
care of herself. I'm actually scared of a lot of
her
men.
going too far?
I'm watching your son.
Mhm.
And I'm looking and hoping that he's a good marriable candidate in the future by the way you're raising him. And I have a few friends that I'm watching and going like, okay, they're actually trying to raise a young man.
Yeah,
They're
that's
trying to raise somebody who's
Yeah.
gonna be able to change a tire and know how to talk to a woman,
Mhm.
and also to know like, oh, she's just being a girl right now. It's all good.
Yeah.
Like
he pumps the gas too. Like
I love that.
like I put it in there and he squeezes the handle till it clicks and then it just goes and he holds it.
Fucking love that.
I'm like, yeah, man, do stuff.
Figure shit.
You know what's crazy? That he's 3 and he understands how, like, the concept of putting gas in the car, and he's like, don't push these buttons, push this button, you know, like,
Right.
he's like, these are low numbers, push this button. I'm like, yeah, cheap gas, good, right? But, like, it's crazy to me that when I see him do that, and I will just be scrolling through videos on YouTube or Facebook, and I come across, like, a 20-year-old that's, like, in a Tesla that's crying at a gas station because she doesn't understand. And I'm like, wow, so, like, every time I feel like, oh, I'm failing as a parent, I'm like, no, whoever raised that dumb cunt, like, definitely,
That's the question,
like,
right? Who the fuck?
who raised that? Yeah.
Who raised you to not know how to do anything and then to just break down?
And
when shit
broadcasting.
doesn't work out. Yeah.
I'm like,
yes.
broadcasting your shame for
Dude,
clout. Like, I don't understand that.
Dude,
My shame,
yes.
I don't feel comfortable, like, expressing myself musically and, like, lyrically because of, like it comes from, like a real, like, emo, shameful place.
Yes.
But I don't want to share that, you know? That's my
recently-
thing, you know?
I've talked about it with you, and I've talked about it with Morrison recently. I have a real, and I share on Facebook, and I make myself share certain things to get past this feeling that I have.
Mhm.
But I have a real predilection towards disdain for oversharing,
Yeah.
and I go out of my way to share positive shit and like uplifting shit because I hate when I see grown men lamenting their lives.
Yeah.
Especially in our friend circle, we have a lot of grown men who are single dudes without wives or children, things of that nature. And it's like, bro, you're the only thing.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up. Like, shut
Yeah.
the fuck up. You're the only thing in your life. You're your only hurdle.
Yeah.
You're your only issue. Everything else is...
No, I mean, so this is where, like,
obviously there's exceptions.
well, no, like, this is where the whole, like, difference, like, when we had Doug on, it's like, I understand exactly what you're saying because I was, like, forced to, like, go through that. But then, like, the reason why I like the shitty music that I like is I'm like, I totally understand the, like, oh, everything was given to me, but, like, woe is me, you know? Like,
Sure.
or, like, I only have myself
You're
to take
very-
care of, but woe is me.
You're very uncharacteristically self-aware.
Well,
Like, you...
it's terrible. It's like our one friend.
That's why when I know you tell somebody off, you make a decision to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's
Like, you're not a I was caught in the moment guy.
but it's not
you know,
long.
like-
It's not a long decision. Is the thing.
No, fair.
It's sometimes honestly, it's a coin flip. I'm like, I could go do laundry right now, or I could,
Or drop a C-bomb on
Yeah,
the, on
yeah.
the seat.
or
Drop
I
a
could,
C-bomb on the
or I
seat.
could call this person a cunt 15 times in one sentence. Like, I don't know, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
And then I'm just like,
Yeah.
and I look at like the mountain of laundry, and I'm like, I'll call this bitch a cunt. Like, you know, like that's what I do. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, I really gotta get this laundry done, and then I
Well,
don't say
I
anything.
notice in general though, it's like you're very specific with who you choose to levy that blow against. You're
Yeah.
not just frivolous with it. I notice too, like with certain people, you recognize that you need to be more delicate.
Yeah.
Other people, you have that level of awareness where I don't see that in a lot of our
People.
peers.
On either side of any argument too,
Absolutely.
which is really frustrating to me because I
Yes.
can't come into some discussions with like you said, like that level of self-awareness where I'm conceding things to people that I would disagree with,
Right.
but then that causes a rift with people that think that I just agree with them 100% of the time. I'm not.
I'm almost jealous of that level of like lack of awareness. I'm almost jealous of like
We've talked about
how
this
these
too.
folks- yeah,
We've
haven't
talked
we?
about
I'm
this
sure.
too. No, I'm not this in detail, but like I've put it out there, and then you've like gone into detail where I'm like, I wish I was this dumb, you know? I did so many drugs to try and become this dumb, and all it did was
Dumb
nothing.
it down and numb
And
all of the feelings.
and it did not work at all. And you were saying
Makes
like,
it worse.
yeah, and you were saying like you got your head beat in so much you had to like have brain surgery, and it, like still you're like, nope, still self-aware. It's you can't get rid of it. Like I feel
Really
like
frustrating.
even
I see it in my kid. I feel for her already.
already, yeah,
'Cause, like,
yeah.
I see her talking to other
Oh,
kids,
God.
and she's so much more aware. Like she can carry on a conversation with an adult.
Yeah.
Like her teachers are always saying this. Oh, she's such a joy to talk to. Like
Yeah.
Annabelle has such a command of language and such an understanding of concepts. And they're just like, yeah, I talk to her like a fucking person.
See,
She'll be like, why is this happening? And I'll say, well, when my grandfather died, she was 3.
Mhm.
And I brought her to the funeral. And a lot of people were like, oh, you know, I had siblings with children of the same age and cousins and stuff. And they're like, I don't know if you should do. And I'm like, hey, this is a really important person to me. It's the
Yeah.
man who helped me be the man that's going to raise her, right? And B, I don't want to keep from her the realities of life because she's going to have to face them again and again and again.
yeah.
So in taking her and talking her through it and being like, she was like, why are we in this big weird building and these rooms
Yeah.
are strange? I'm like, this is a church. I got raised going
This
to
is
these.
church.
You've never been to one before. Your mom went to temple. That's
Yeah.
a whole different thing. And these folks believe different things about what happens when you die.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And I feel like if you start them off from that place of like openness and being able to work through and talk through all these like really complex subjects, they'll
Mhm.
have that ability throughout their lives. They'll
I'm
develop that early.
like I know like I'm a very introspective in my emo pain, you know? So like
Sure.
I'm trying to delay that level of self-awareness that we have in my son for as long as possible.
I don't think you
Like,
can help it though. You're gonna just see it at some
I
point.
know, but I get glimpses of it where I'm like, God damn it. He's like a
He's
little,
now what, 3?
yeah, he's a three-nager. I've
So
heard the
he's gonna
dads
be-
call it. Yeah.
From what I can gauge with my daughter, and I feel like boys and girls are a 2-year differential.
Yeah.
My daughter around that age, around 3, my grandfather's funeral, she started to become so much more aware and have so many more questions. I
Yeah.
would say I'm
That's
gonna
happening.
guess with you, it's starting now and it's
Yeah.
gonna kick in harder around 4.5.
Well,
That's when your simplistic versions of answers aren't gonna be enough anymore.
no, they already aren't. Then he tells me I'm lying.
Trust me,
So,
trust me.
no, I
When I
do.
say to you, trust me when I say to you, brother, that is the phase that is supposed to be. And the I'm lying it's not going to be I'm lying anymore. It's going to be not only are you
No,
lying
I'm-
or what have you, or I don't believe this, I'm going to now present to you theories that I've heard
Yeah,
from
yeah.
friends and teachers and this and that.
No, I straight
and
up lie to
try-
him.
I
Yeah,
don't, that's
yeah.
the one thing I don't do. That's the one thing.
Oh.
Like I remember my daughter a while ago was like, Dad, how come you're wearing a shirt at the beach? And I was like, well, Daddy got really fat over the last 5 years and is ashamed of his torso. And my buddy was laughing. He's like, you just say that to your kid? And I'm like, listen, dude, what am I going to tell her?
Yeah.
What am I going to tell her that I'm wearing a tank top?
Well-
Daddy's arms are cock diesel, but he's got tits from eating snacks, and he doesn't like the way they move when he runs on the beach.
Well-
So he's going to cover him up for everybody
When I
else's
say-
benefit.
When I say I lie to him, like, I just lie to him about where we're going. Like, today he was having, like, an existential dilemma of not wanting to go to school. And I was just like, no, we're not going to school. And he's like, oh, okay. He's like, but you just turned right here, and I don't want to go to school. And I was like, no, we're not going to school. And he's like, I think we're going to school. And I was like, nah, man. Nah, we're not going to school. And then I got him to sing. So, no, like, Crystal will, like, try to talk to him like an adult.
Sure.
And I'll, like, cut her off and just start dancing with him. I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that. Like kind of.
You're trying to give him the endorphin boost to make him accept the reality. See,
No, I'm
which is
no,
good.
I lied to him then. I'm like, no, that's not important, man. Let's go fucking dance. You want to listen to metal? Let's go fucking listen to metal. And he's like, oh yeah, whatever deep question, philosophical question I was asking Mom, I don't care about now. Dad and I are gonna go fucking listen to metal.
Cut him
And I'm
off.
like, yeah. I'm like, no, don't think into things yet. Like, distract yourself. You're 3.
So funny.
You're 3. And then even then when you're a teenager, it's like, maybe distract yourself with like underage drinking, which I don't endorse, you know, like maybe distract yourself for a little bit because like you're still a kid, you know, just don't hurt
Yeah.
anybody. Like that's the only thing I try to, and that, ironically, that's the thing that he's just like, don't hurt anybody. But everybody's made out of stone like me. I can just run into anybody. That's the only thing he like is not grasping. Everything else, you can kind of sit down and explain it to him.
Yeah, that's one that my daughter has too, where it's like she's a strong kid physically, and she's starting to now, like with old people and stuff, with my grandmother. It's like she'll grab my grandmother and hug the fuck out of her. My grandmother's 88.
Yeah.
And she's kind of small and frail, and my daughter is just this little 60-pound, torpedo.
Yeah.
And she just wants to run up and hug my grandmother. At this point, she could probably pick my grandmother up and carry her to the fucking couch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like a couple weeks ago, I told you the story about the single leg. Did I say that on here or no?
Yeah.
Where I told her hit your mom with the single leg takedown, and Eva didn't know
She
what
was
the
like,
fuck was
"Oh!"
going on until she was ass over appetite. I watched her grappling in jiu-jitsu class on Tuesday, and I just swell with pride. Like
That's
watching
awesome.
her, and somebody being like one of the other guys who's like a further advanced guy, one of the instructors, like, well, which one's yours? I'm like, the little one who's on top right now, like the little one who's fucking tearing it up.
The girl that's beating up the boy.
There's no better feeling. And she's not as advanced as nearly half of these kids. She's just big for her age, strong for her age, athletic. You know what I mean? Like, and we, like tonight, this was another point of pride.
Genetic diversity.
Absolutely.
Genetic diversity.
She is a fucking cornucopia of culture. This
Yeah, man.
But today, we were late. My wife and I both had dental cleanings, just like regular checkup shit. And we were late for jiu-jitsu. We couldn't go to jiu-jitsu because we picked her up like 5:30. Jiu-jitsu's at 5, so on and so forth. And I said to her, hey, I'm sorry. We're late, so we can't do jiu-jitsu. What, to make it up to you, I want to make you whatever you want for dinner or get you whatever you want for dinner. We can go get Wendy's, which is her favorite burger joint outside of BurgerFi.
Yeah.
We can get pizza. What do you want? Tell me what you want. Dad, do you want a waffle? We'll get a fucking waffle. Like, whatever you want. She goes, oh, I know what I want, Dad. Can you make me steak and cucumbers and rice?
Oh, damn.
And
like
I'm
an adult. That's like an adult. Yeah.
That's her favorite meal.
Nice.
That's her favorite meal. And her body functions like that's her favorite meal. She is a fucking...
Like a high protein, like, yeah.
She is a total and it's like, I'm getting to build this person. And then I look back, I'm sure we've talked about upbringing a lot. I look back at our parents, like my wife's parents, my parents, the parents of our generation, and how little fucks they gave about what they were feeding us, about how they were developing our bodies and our mental. And not every parent, obviously, but my upbringing.
Still, they were doing more than whoever, like I said, that girl crying at the gas station.
Well, no, maybe that girl has
crazy.
had like a lot of nice avocados and cucumber water her whole life and healthy foods.
No. But I think
the difference is that our parents
give those to her.
Well, that's what I was going to say though. Maybe their parents are giving them that. Maybe there's that focus.
No, Consuela that works for her parents.
Now that's
what
a
I'm
different
saying.
planet. That's a different planet for me.
That's what I'm saying.
Because my mom was Consuela.
Yeah.
We cleaned office buildings at night.
Exactly.
We worked in nursing homes. You know what I mean?
That's the difference there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I only had a Consuela for a little bit, but
I knew how to make a meatball and cook a chicken
Yeah.
and fucking make sauce by the time I was like, 10, 11 years old. But I didn't know it was healthy food. I didn't know that you shouldn't gorge yourself. I didn't know you shouldn't eat the whole box of cereal in a salad bowl. Nobody ever said that to me. You know what I mean?
Well, with our age, I feel like it was like our grandparents raised them like, oh, you're not eating. You need to eat. The more you eat, the healthier you are, because the way they raised them, I guess, like food with nutrition dense food wasn't like a thing all the time. So like it's ingrained in them that like no, eat all of it eat as much as you can.
Right.
Because you don't know when your meal's going to come. Yeah. Yes. Well, when we talked about this too, the
famine think.
The famine thing. It's like that's exactly how the starving monkey brain part of your brain stem works. It's like if you're starving,
and I wonder, you have the Great Depression, which is our grandparent era.
Yeah.
Then you have the boomers, who is just like they had everything. Always.
Literally, yeah. They had the best of everything for
at your
no
beck
money.
And call. Yeah, and everything was the cheapest. Like they literally trampled the foundation that was built. Like I look specifically at the microcosm of my own family, right? Mm-hmm. The people of my grandparents' era built a lot, whether it was familial wealth,
Industrial Revolution era.
Yeah, not even. I'm just saying, even just in
Just
my
your family.
physical family.
Yeah.
Not even my extended family. Like my grandparents, my great grandparents came from Italy and Cuba, respectively. My grandparents on my father's side. My father came from Cuba. But on the American side, the Italian American side, my grandparents took the ball from my great grandparents, the immigrant group, and ran. They had families in their 20s and started businesses and developed communities, right?
Yeah.
My uncle and my mother had cars at 16, went to prom, and did all the things that our generation kind of like were hit and miss, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And they didn't appreciate a fucking ounce of it. Like my uncle now is probably one of the most spoiled and selfish people that I know. He's waiting for my grandmother to die to see what he could get. You know what I mean? The only thing that he's asked me about since my grandfather has passed away, not my kid, not anything else, if I have his dad's gun. And I say, yeah, I got your dad's gun because I was his friend. We went shooting together. We hung out together. Matter of fact, his guns were all refurbished. Guess by who? Fuck. You don't know because you don't care. You just care about your own shit. Yeah. This is a man who asked my grandmother if when she died, he could have her grandfather clock. Like,
hey, when you're gone,
the level of audacity.
When you're gone,
yeah. Can you put this in writing, please? Like the level of audacity to ask somebody who like has given their life to you about what you can get when they're gone. I see this.
I don't even think like Doug and I would like, and at our like peak level of spoiled, would like ask something like that. That's crazy.
You're talking about a person who's now 60 years old or whatever, right? Who has been given everything from day one, right? This is an individual who, as an adult, right? And I'm just using this as a microcosm for them all because I see these same patterns in a lot of my friends' relationships with their parents. I noticed that our generation is like finding responsibility through the turmoil of their upbringing.
Yeah.
Right? I see it in myself, my wife, you, so many other of our friends whose parents were like man babies, like, human children, like adult children.
Yeah.
And
my dad's still a 12-year-old.
Right. And our upbringing is like figuring it out.
Yeah.
Through their haze that they created in the chaos of our upbringings. So like you see that, and then you see like the next generation behind us, like the people who are our generation mates, our younger generation mates.
Yeah.
They remind me very much. It's almost like a microcosm of those two same groups where it's like,
and those are the two people that fight. And those are the two people that fight, and everybody else is kind of like...
It's like the Gen X and the Zennials, or whatever we're called, are like the old school Great Depression people who are just jaded, and we've seen it all, been hungry, lived 3 years on ramen noodles, kid. I don't give a fuck what you're saying. A hard-boiled egg was a treat. Like that shit. And then you have this other group who... I see them both in our friend group. I see people who have dragged themselves out of the muck and mire, and people who have ridden on the backs of their parents and act as if they sailed themselves to safety and freedom. It blows my mind every time. And infuriates me, frankly.
We'll go in like even a little bit deeper.
And then to be told I have some kind of privilege by some other white kid who doesn't have a name like Rodriguez, and who when they look up their name, there's not 50,000 other people with that same exact fucking name and a predilection toward Latinness and criminalities and all this kind of shit. It's so frustrating. And I'm thinking of a specific individual that's a friend of ours. And they pontificate on a regular basis about what everybody else has, where I'm looking at this, and to use their own logic, this white person who's going to preach to all these other people in their social group because they feel like they can. You know what I mean? In this platform of social media. And again, I've shared a little extra this week because I'm trying to do certain things for therapy to like get myself okay with certain things and not get angered by certain things. I don't know if it's having the desired effect. I'm looking at this shit and I'm just like, God, can we just go back to the sword? Can we just go back and everybody will just realize what's really important? Like really, really, truly important. Not all this bullshit bluster and fuckery. I'm sorry. It was a rant. I apologize.
No, that's fine. Clip that. Clip it.
Mario, you're watching. Clip it.
No, so like the other thing that I've seen is like the guy that you're talking about that's been like, not the guy, but the person archetype that you're talking about
Yeah.
He's had everything handed to him. Will like make fun of somebody that's like hardworking in our group, but like they work for their parents, but like their parents are like blue collar people too, you know? Like
Sure.
like
Or they don't even make fun, but they just have an opinion.
yeah, like that person.
Where it's like,
they
where is
think
that-
that they think that person is privileged. They're like, oh yeah, but your dad runs this business,
and they think
like,
that they have the right to say some shit about it to that person or to anybody. Where it's like, hey,
like
what happened to the logic of if you don't have a uterus, you should shut
Yeah.
the fuck up about abortion? I like that.
did you?
I like that a lot. I
Yeah.
like that idea of because I don't. You know what? I don't
Yeah.
know what it's like to build a person inside myself. I never will. So maybe I should shut the fuck up.
And I
Maybe
think the
white
only
people
thing
should
that-
start shutting the fuck up to other minorities about how they should deal with other. There's this weird thing about like.
Yeah, but
and
we're all
I hate to say it.
humans.
I hate to jump on white people, but it's always
Nah,
white kids our age.
that's all. It's not. I mean, but they're not white anymore. Is the other thing too.
Well,
It's
they're
weird.
astral gender, whatever the fuck they are.
No, not gender. I mean, like, so here's where I was going. Was like, shit. I'll get it. So, like the last time Hunter blocked me, and he even explained to me that he wasn't even mad. It was just like the last time we talked when you were in town. He was like, I wasn't even mad at you. I thought what you were doing was actually very funny, and I understood your jokes that you were making towards me. But other people were getting so mad, I had to block you. And I was like, I understand that, because he understands
And
when I'm calling him a drunk.
Right.
He's like a privileged white person that jumps like his friend group just happens to be those terrible people, and so he has to like keep up the status quo, which
But
I
that's the
hate.
thing. That's our whole friend group.
hate
Everybody's
that.
guilty of this virtuous bluster at some point in
I
time.
don't know, Kevin
even to
really
a certain
doesn't.
degree. What I'm doing, but even to a certain
Yeah.
degree, what I'm doing now is the same shit on the other angle,
guess.
right? I'm just pontificating about how I'm aggravated about a certain behavior. I think
Yeah.
the difference is,
I just want them to not care, like
yes,
if
yes!
they could just not care, like
mental American value
Yeah.
of not giving a fuck.
No,
That's
no.
what I miss.
not giving
That's
a
what I
fuck.
miss.
Like he, I still want him to be passionate about the things that he's passionate about, but when I say not
But
give a
leave
fuck,
everybody else alone.
yeah. No, I mean not give a fuck about what other people think. Like he's always worried like that he's gonna impact like all these other people that are super fragile. And the crazy thing is like for as privileged as he is, he's actually like a hardworking dude that like deserves the things that he gets, and like it has like he's not a white knight, like he's retardedly gotten stabbed defending a woman being raped. Like
Right.
he's not just talk, like he does all this shit, and then
Right.
he can't be friends with like me, you know, like, and he's like, I love you so much and I want to hang out with you, but like these people, and I'm like I understand, and I love
you gotta
being his
understand,
friend.
Too, like friends with businesses and things like that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to consider all that shit nowadays.
Mhm.
Like I'm living in a different place.
Yeah.
I'm living in a different place where I'm not tied to any of that shit, so I don't have to be concerned about the opinion of whom the fuck ever. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing too that I notice over and over again in this cancel culture. The people who don't give a fuck don't get canceled.
Yeah.
The minute you care is when you're vulnerable, where you're susceptible to it. The truth of the matter is, like, come fucking see me. Come
Yeah.
fucking see me. If you have a problem with something I say, I'm happy to have a discussion about it as a friend. And if
Yeah.
you want to come at me like a gangster, bring that shit. Because I've always felt like I was going to die a violent death. And today's a good day as any. I really don't give
You
a
need
fuck.
to stop that. You need
I
to
always
stop
felt like I
that.
was going to die a violent death. I don't
You're
know why.
not-
It's like a dream
you're-
I've always had.
You're too smart to like have that happen though, is the thing.
No, I hope
Like-
not. I don't want it to happen. It's not something that I glorify.
No,
I
I
just
know.
have always.
But I'm saying
you
you're
know,
too
Jojo,
smart.
Jojo back in the day asked me. He was the first person to ever ask me why I thought. And I had never asked myself that question. And I think part of it probably stems from just being around a lot of
Of
violence.
violence. Yeah.
Yeah. So. I don't think it's necessarily a good thing, and maybe it's something that I should stop saying out loud in the world. But for
Yeah.
whatever fucking reason, I've always felt like that was my destiny, and so I always.
The
there was,
only
like, a
way
code,
I
I
would
think
say
it was
like
called Yamato Damashi.
yeah,
Right? Japanese fucking samurai shit, where it's like I'm gonna go into battle as if I am destined to die already.
That's why
I'm going to go into battle as if this battle is supposed to be my final one. And that
Andrew
every time I
Jackson.
can fight as ferociously as a,
Andrew
or I was just
Jackson.
reading about Cassius Clay.
Yeah.
Have you read about Cassius Clay before? He was an abolitionist from the South who
You
there's a
posted
statue of him in
something
Marietta, Georgia.
one
Matter of
time,
fact,
yeah.
shout out to Greg Stevens from Gator Guns and Pawn. He told me about Cassius Clay as like one of his great ancestors.
Yeah.
Anyway, fucking.
I love
But yeah,
Gator
that
Guns.
idea to me, Gator, dude, Greg is my dog. And next time I go to Florida, the past 2 times I've been down to have him gone by to see him, and I need to go by and just say, hey, maybe like buy a holster or some ammo or something. I
Yeah.
love that guy. His
Support
whole staff
Gator
knows what
Guns.
the fuck they're talking about. Support
Yeah.
businesses like Gator Guns when they.
Well, it doesn't
at
matter
times
if
like
it's
this.
guns or not
And if
either.
you want real information about guns, even if you're a person who doesn't know about guns and is nervous about guns, go to somewhere like that where these folks are seasoned utilizers of weapons. They carry a weapon, they have these weapons, they're around them at all times. You go to a guy like Greg and he's going to give you the straight dope every time. He's not going to try and upsell you into something you don't need.
Yeah.
He's going to talk to you about what your needs are and then give you something that is not good. You're not trying to you're not Schwarzenegger in Commando trying to go save Alyssa Milano from the guy who looked like Freddie Mercury. You're trying to like make sure that if somebody breaks in your house, you can send some hot ones their way and get them out the fucking door. That's what you know what I mean? But anyway, Greg will take care of you. Greg's the fucking man. That guy taught me more about guns than my time working with any law enforcement at all.
Nice.
So that's
Clip
a little terrifying, frankly.
Clip that. I mean, it's so hey, back to the people in our friend group.
Yes.
So like, I don't know, man. I just want them to not care. And like you said, the people that don't care don't get canceled. Like, I figured just the people, like, I told you about my fucking rant at that Magic tournament. I yelled out, like, literally, my buddies have all had their, it's called like a DCI number. It's like the number that you register tournaments with when you go to play.
Okay.
Like they've all had theirs like canceled and banned and shit. I still haven't had my first one banned, and I've said many obscenities on their streams where people could hear it and yelled my DCI number at the same time. Like, I'm like, ban it.
Come see me.
I'm like, yeah, no, I'm like, come see me. I called LSV a fucking piece of shit and told him to meet me outside if he wanted to talk shit to me.
Who's that?
It's this guy that turned 10,000 of my dollars into 2,000 of my dollars by getting 2 cards banned because he didn't like the way they worked. Oh, big crybaby. Anyway, like I
banned
stunned
the guy with the butt crack pictures. That's my biggest gripe with the Magic community. You're gonna tell me
the girls.
you're gonna have a community of people.
The
You're gonna have a
girls.
community of people who 90% of which rock the
that.
crack out and open, son. I
Which
used
is
to go
why
to the
he did
fucking-
that.
I used to go to the Leonard Lancer Guild. My best friend Tommy Donuts, who's been on this channel, Tom Eats It, will be coming in May. Okay.
Yeah.
Fucking when he would take me to those fucking games, because I used to love to go play Counter-Strike back in the day where there'd be like 20
LAN
computers in
parties.
a back room that smelled
Yeah.
like tacos and farts.
Yeah.
And you'd be in there with 20, and that was so fun. And you're yelling and talking shit. It was the jock version of gaming, I felt like back then.
Yeah.
And Tommy Donuts would be in the room right in front, and they'd all be playing, what do you call it? Boosting. What boosting?
Oh,
Is
drafting.
Drafting.
They were all
Booster
drafting,
packs. Yes,
yeah.
you got me. Okay, you understand? See, you understand me. I love you so much. You understand me.
Yeah.
Anyway, fucking.
I know
so
what
they'd
you're
be doing
trying
that
to say.
shit. They'd be doing that shit, and they'd get all fucking into it. They'd get all fired up. They'd all be having fun. It would be great. It was great. It was so great that guy who ran that place must have lost so much fucking money on like Nutter Butters he never charged people for and sodas he
Yeah.
never charged people for. And my friend Elliot must have taken over the years 90 pounds of pewter figurines out of that fucking bitch. He was one of those guys into the pewter figurines for the Dungeons and Dragon. All great. All great. But let me tell you something. Everyone on the portly scale, you had 2 kind of guys in there. You had guys that were skinny that they looked like they just got out of a coal mine that they had been trapped in for a month. And you had guys that were so fat, like myself, that their ass crack can't help but peek out of their pants.
Let me tell
because
you.
your upper waist is fatter than your smaller waist, so your shit slides down, and you have an unathletic ass because you do nothing but sit on it. So it's a narrow little Hank Hill fucking wedge of an ass, and fucking your ass crack shows. Now, you mean to tell me that what should be on the state flag for the land of Magic cards That gets this guy banned.
Let
The
me tell you.
funniest fucking thing, the best sense of humor to come out of that community
What's
in
that?
100 years. If I meet that guy, I want to hug him and buy him a sandwich. That is the funniest shit. And why can't we make fun of ourselves? If you drew a picture of me yelling with my big stupid teeth and my stupid big nose and my shiny bald head, I would love it. I would love it.
Why. I can tell you why.
Please, because you're more insightful to this group than I am. I grew up with goons.
It's not even the group. It's just nerd stuff in general. So there used to be like the archetype of nerd that you just explained, right? And then there were a couple like the skinny asthma nerds, right? Like me, right? It's like we're literally like what 99% of the Magic community looked like before. Let me look this up. Specific event. It used to
be a thing of like you can appreciate each other's nerddom. You know what I mean? Like I'm a mixed martial arts nerd and a stand-up comedy nerd, and I like Star Wars. You know, I like the shit I like, right? Now it's like you got to be a certain kind of anything, whatever it's going to be.
Exactly. So,
hey, am I supposed to talk into the side of this mic or the top of this mic? Which one?
Well, it sounded like the top was better.
The top sounded better just there.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the direct. Clear? That's super clear, actually.
Crisper.
Yeah. All right.
Even better than before, Mike? How can we keep getting better?
Now it's too loud. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. You can keep speaking loud.
Hey.
September 24th, 2007. September 24th, 2007.
Was that your guy's 9/11?
No.
Okay. That wasn't.
I had to look it up. I wouldn't have known. That's the year. That's the day that that asshole Chuck Lorre made that show, The Big Bang Theory. So it's not a bad show as far as shows go. No, as far as shows in general go, like especially now that like shows are based off Kim Kardashian, like
it's just such lackluster writing.
Yeah. I mean, he had better shows and better writers for shows.
I can't think of any of his shows I thought were good, but I get what you're saying.
Better, better. Yeah, but
very popular and very well known.
So now, like,
and you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I loved the scene with James Earl Jones. That made me like all heartwarmed. Where he's like, "You're telling me you want to talk to me about Star Wars?" And then he's like, "I like Star Wars too." Like that was a great fucking.
Yeah, no, that's a great moment. Like there's good
maybe want to hug James Earl Jones.
Yeah, there's good moments in the show. Like I said, the writing is definitely subpar and like a fuck you to people that actually care about the things that they talk about. But even people that like nerds of like comedy writing, this is why you hate it. It's a fuck you to like comedic timing and slapstick. It's even a fuck you to slapstick because it's bad slapstick humor, bad sitcom
it's slapstick
humor
without the impact.
Yeah, it's bad. So anyway,
it's
it became
the Stooges without the smack.
Yeah, so basically, and everything kind of like revolves around this like sensitivity in this show, right? And they also made it cool to
Kaylee Cuoco. She's pretty banging.
Yeah. So that's the other thing too. Like they made nerds cool, where like the hot girls are like, oh, the nerds are the guys that we want because the show is trying to tell us that, and then the nerds are like, oh, we're cool, right? So we can start getting the girls, right? But then they do start getting some of the girls, and the guys that they're taking them away from are cunts. Like the not good jocks. Or the losers.
Just dicks in general.
Or the losers that weren't nerds and weren't jocks, that were just like fucking pieces of shit. And like the only girl they could get was the hot girl in their trailer park that now dates the kid that plays Magic. So now these guys, right, are going into the nerd spaces, and what comes with them are the super liberal arts, women's studies girls, X-gender, whatever, right? Because as much as they're preaching their bullshit, they would like to be cool, and the cool thing is to do nerd stuff, and then those guys... So then, literally, the Big Bang Theory just opens up the door for the people that everybody was trying to get away from to enter like our safe space, you know? I hate to use that term, but like it was like
what you're saying.
It was like our escape from them. and now they're
Yeah.
coming in,
Now
and
they're there.
and luckily a lot of like the asshole jock type guys and the loser asshole like wife beating guys kind of left, but they left behind the super SJW blue haired girls who now are dating these guys that now we can fill the void that these assholes left, right?
Right.
But they're getting fucked by these girls, like sometimes literally and sometimes like figuratively, like mentally, like literally pegged, because they're telling them, they're fucking over them mentally, saying if you don't want to take a dick up the ass by a woman, you're not a straight man, like that's literally what they're poisoning their heads with. And then when you try to
whole
say
thing about if you don't suck a transsexual woman's dick,
I posted that. The feminine penis. The feminine penis theory. Anyway.
Well, that's not the first time I've seen that theory, which is terrible.
And those girls that now like run the magic scene, at least in South Florida, and it sounds like all over, right? Mm-hmm. Now they're like high ups and shit, and it's really frustrating. And the fucked up thing is I can't speak out against them, because then they say the dumb thing that all those dumb cunts say. It's like, oh, not only is this guy terrible, he doesn't like women's voices. I'm like, no, actually, I love a strong woman that has something legitimate to say. You do not have anything legitimate to say. That's the problem.
Yeah. Dude, I'll vote for Tulsi Gabbard for president.
Oh, fuck yeah. So, and then all they know about her is that when she was 16, she worked at her dad's church camp.
How about this?
Yeah.
My wife creates our household budget because she's better with money than I am. Like,
there you go.
I hate this.
Like, of all people, for like those dumb bitches to fucking call somebody like misogynist, like, and all their fucking trigger words, like you and I are like literally the last person that even applies to at all.
My wife is like my fucking number one partner in life. Like, what are you talking about? I think she's the smartest person I know. She advises me in almost everything that I do.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking? That's the thing that.
And it's not like a mom. And this is the other bullshit thing. Like when I explain my situation to these cunts, they're like, "Oh, so you just got a mom to take care of you?" I'm like, "Fuck you!" Like, you have no idea what's going on.
It's one of those situations where no matter what you say,
they're
trying to throw a label on it.
That's why I call them cunts. That's why I call them a cunt as many times as I can until they leave.
Well, you're just trying to get that fucking.
No, until they leave. No, until they leave. I would rather.
If you're trying to get them to leave, that I almost feel like that's not good enough. I almost feel like it's like, hey, is this your address? I like that move better.
No, remember the one dude on Mike's page tried to dox me, and you were like, fucking give me his address, and I was like, I have it, but I'm not going to give it to you,
Yo,
it was a New York dude. But the crazy thing was,
I hate that shit.
It was 3 addresses old. Like, that's how I just want to thoroughly I scrubbed the internet
wants to fucking
of my shit
to my place to start
I told him. No, I told him. I was like, you should go there. Because, dude, my dad lived there after me, and then after that, he subletted it to these, like a fucking gang of, Guatemalans and Mexicans that, would, not televise, stream them fighting in that apartment. And I was like, you should go there. Go there. Tell me you want to fight somebody in there. No, do it. Do it.
That's hilarious.
Oh, you should go there.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
No, go to that address. See what happens when you knock on that door and you're all full of piss and vinegar and you're just a white dude and get pulled into the sea of brown.
See, that's the problem I have with these fuckers too, though. These doxing people.
Yeah.
Because they aren't going to go do the shit themselves.
No, they want somebody to
They want somebody else to go make that move. Like that fucking lady, Melissa Click or whatever her name was, who was like, I need some muscle. This Asian reporter out of here. Remember that fucking story from one of those universities? This lady was a professor at a university, and there was a protest or something like that going on, or a safe space that was being organized, and this bitch was asking this guy who was a student journalist to leave, also a person of color, being Asian.
Yeah.
And when he said, no, I'm press, I'm filming the event, that's
the black guy that got punched?
No, he was this Asian kid, and this red-haired fucking white lady came out and was... That's what I'm becoming prejudiced against, by the way, is fucking white ladies.
Gingers?
They cause a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Not gingers in general. No. Gingers are a good fucking time. You catch the right ginger, you're going to have a great night. You're going to have fun. I know Josh Caricio, one of my oldest friends, drummer in FLA, my old band.
Oh yeah,
fucking
I know Josh.
Fun. My boy James.
Josh is
fucking
super positive.
Fun. Happy guy, man. Gingers are good people. It's white ladies. They're the problem.
Yeah.
You want to talk about exterminating?
And they're the ones that are the loudest about racism and all this bullshit too. It's dumb, man. They're just
you can't
stupid.
even belt them anymore these days.
I remember my first experience with what the fuck movie was that? It was some fireman movie in the late 80s, early 90s. So like it could literally be one of 100 different movies, right?
Yes.
And
right,
it was fucking this actress. She's a pretty good like side character. I don't even remember what her name was, but she played the current like SJW type person very well, like in the late 80s. And I was like, there's people like that. And it was funny because like my uncle who was working in where the fuck is it, in Northern California, that school, the Freedom of Berkeley, he was like working at Berkeley at the time. He's like, oh yeah, man, those bitches are everywhere. And then now like he's like, well, like woke or whatever. But she was like she started this job at like this fire station, and they were like, the one guy was like showing her the ropes, and then he was like, so the rule of thumb here is blah 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 blah. And then she's like, rule of thumb? I knew it. You guys were all misogynistic assholes. Do you know what the rule of thumb is? And like, they're just firemen, so they're like, no, I mean, that's what you're supposed to do. She's like, the rule of thumb is an outdated law where you can beat your woman with nothing larger than the size of the width of your thumb, and you could hold it up to your eye, and if as long as it wasn't bigger than the width of your thumb. So you guys are assholes. And they're like, okay, lady. Like, and like, so she got her like comeuppance or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's like white women now, mostly white women now.
It's that kind of thing that makes you go like, man, you've never had a problem.
No.
Like, you've never had a real fucking issue.
No.
That you're going to go back to find some old shit that doesn't apply anymore. Like, it's
like
not,
a saying, yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Especially the way that language shifts and changes over time.
Yeah.
And we utilize these different terminologies, like, over and over again. They become different things. And it's like anything else, man. You want to cancel words, go ahead and try. You know what I mean? Like, good luck.
Yeah.
See what happens. It's not going to work out.
See what happens.
Yeah. It's going to create division. It's going to create issues over and over and over again. This isn't new shit. You know what I mean? Like, we're not broaching any new ground. That's the part of it that bothers me more than anything else in this current climate, is that we are not understanding that this isn't some revolutionary situation.
Yeah.
These are a lot of people doing
it's
a
those
lot of
kids
things that have not worked already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like,
those kids that you're talking about that are the same as the 60-year-olds. They think they are breaking new ground. They think
right.
that they are living in the most racist time. They think that it is worse now than it was during slavery time. They think that
and there's this
requiring
attitude of, like,
an ID to they think that requiring an ID to vote is the same as Jim Crow laws. It's like,
and the level of contradiction with all that shit is so ridiculous. And again, you can look at either side on those issues and find
then you just got to go to
massive amounts of contradiction.
The thing is, like, it's really weird because like the older people on the right are doing the same type of they're spewing the same bullshit, the same incoherent babbling of shit that doesn't make sense, and then like
with no question.
But I mean, the kind of crazy thing is though, on the left, the old and young are both kind of like the young start yelling like that, and then the older people that are the same age as the boomers, they don't say no, they don't say yes, but they're very supportive.
I don't find anybody to enter the scenario saying anything like, I'm on the right or I'm on the left. I don't find anybody who approaches.
I'll classify people.
Well, I don't find anybody who approaches classification of themselves.
Yeah.
With any seriousness, like, I can't take them.
Oh yeah.
Seriously, because it's like you. That's how you're defining who the fuck you are. Like,
yeah.
I've met people who have introduced themselves as staunch or avid this or that, and it's like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? If I'm pressed into a corner, you can get me to maybe say that I like hold some libertarian values,
Exactly. Yeah.
the most like, you know, representative of what I believe, but it doesn't make any sense to me to like all this rah-rah shit. Like no one's ever had their lives saved by the Democrats or the Republicans. Individuals making choices.
Yeah,
You know what I
man.
mean?
They're
The
all
thing that I
bad.
say always that melts fucking brains is when I say my favorite two presidents are fucking Ronald Reagan and fucking Jimmy Carter, because they actually did what their constituencies requested of them. They were, I think, the last presidents before corporatized presidents.
And then, like you said, that starts a fight with like the people our age or a little bit younger. How could you
People
like this?
automatically-
How could you like? How
Exactly.
you can't lump them
People
together?
automatically
They're no,
emotionalize it. People on the right or people on the left are automatically. And I've known friends of mine who are like intelligent people who I like admire and appreciate their minds and their intellects, their opinions. Be like, fuck Reagan, and it's like, what? You never met him.
yeah.
What do you mean? What do you fucking
what-
mean, you idiot?
What I
It doesn't
don't
make any
understand
sense.
is the kids. I mean, that are our age, right? We're not kids,
Yeah.
but the people our age, a little bit younger, a little
That's
bit
what you're
older,
talking about.
right? I mean, they act like children. They were alive when Reagan was president, like briefly, right? And when we were alive and Reagan was president, we kind of like had a taste of what the boomers had growing up. So I don't understand why they don't like him.
Well,
I mean, I
here's what
understand.
Reagan-
I
here's the
understand.
The
but
things
like,
that I think Reagan did that fucking were bad and were good are negligible, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. What matters is that he did what people voted him into
to
office
do. That's
attempt to
exactly.
do,
No, that's
right?
the thing.
And it's the same thing with Jimmy Carter, because when you
and
talk
how
about
he
Reagan,
did it.
people on the left go, he fucked up mental health, he fucked up this,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
put a lot of people on the street. Fine.
Peace
He
in the
also
Middle
like
East.
helped jobs. He also his wife fucked up the war on drugs. Yes, agreed, 100% agreed. He also did a lot of things in regards to the Cuban people, helping them. There were a lot of things that Ronald Reagan
Yeah.
did well and poorly. Jimmy Carter, same thing. If you bring up Jimmy Carter, people on the left are like, "Oh, he was great." People on the right are like,
So-
"Oh, Iran, he was a pussy. He rolled over. He got lives cost in the military." Yeah. Guess
Yeah.
what? As a president, you're like a fucking mixed martial arts referee. You are not going to have a 100% success rate. You're not going to always be in the right place at the right time. You're not going to always see if the guy's out or not. It's
Yeah.
just the more fights you ref, the harder it's going to be to have
What's
that
the-
perfect record.
Shit. What's the guy with the dreads?
Herb Dean.
Herb Dean. Did you see the latest Herb
Legendary.
Dean
No, what
clip
happened now?
where he was just pissed, and I think he like said you can get somebody else to ref for the rest of the night, but like one dude was getting beat mercilessly, right?
Mm.
And he was gonna call it no contest, right? I guess for some reason, and like even the guy that was winning, he's like, yeah, this shouldn't be like a thing, whatever. Both fighters were like, yeah, all right, that's cool, and then the announcer came up to him, or whoever was running the event came up to him, and he's like, and you hear Herb Dean is like, yeah, I'm gonna call it no contest, and the guy was like, okay, and then he calls it something else, like Herb Dean's getting ready, you know, to raise the one hand or what, do something, right? And
Sure.
then they called it not no contest, they called it
Disqualification? Or?
no, they called it something else, and he drops both their hands, he just goes, all right, bye, and just walks away. Like,
Was this in the UFC?
I think so.
Or
It
a
was-
different
it's-
organization?
I think it was in the UFC, and it was very recent.
I'll have to check it out.
Because I laughed
Herb
because like,
Dean,
well, no, like he knows what the fuck he's talking about, and he told the guy like, and the whole thing was like nobody in the ring or in the corners disagreed with what he was doing, but whoever
Sure.
was running this exact event was like, that's not good for whatever.
do you know if it was Dana White?
No, it was not Dana White. That was the thing.
Okay, so that's because Dana and him have a good relationship. Now, when Herb
But
Dean is
Dana
highly
White
respected-
doesn't run all of the events though. Like,
No,
like
he doesn't.
that's the thing. Whoever
And
was running the
furthermore,
event,
Herb Dean doesn't just work for the UFC. He
Yeah.
works for the Athletic Commission. So he could be doing a Bellator event. He
No,
could be
it
doing
was-
a ONE FC event.
there
he
was
could be
like
doing any other
UFC
event.
logos in the background and stuff
Okay.
like that. I think
It could have been a Strike Force event, which is
Could have
owned
been.
by the UFC.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's one of those things. But
Anyway, he was pissed because like, and literally even the
Herb
fighters were like, "What is going on?"
Herb Dean is highly respected for many reasons. A, because he's a great referee. B, Herb Dean was an actual mixed martial artist. Herb Dean was a guy who made it into
his
the
school. Isn't his school for refereeing, you also have to learn to roll with him too?
Yeah, you have to learn you have to learn what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Competency.
That's what I was saying, man, everybody in the clip was he's making the right decision. And then whoever just decided.
So some promoter or announcer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Override what he was
saying.
Yeah.
And literally the look of confusion on the fighter's face was that's not what he just said.
It happens too, where these fucking people, man, they think they know
more
what the right thing is, or they're trying.
Or what's
they're
good
about
for the company.
The sport.
Yeah.
There was a group called Elite XC, and this was in the Kimbo Slice days. This was when Kimbo lost his first big match.
Mm-hmm.
And they were notorious for telling people hey, keep it up. We want exciting fights. Keep it on the feet. Keep it on the feet. And for hiring people who were going to be more brawlers and shit like that.
It's dumb.
And
that doesn't sound safe.
Well, again, they thought they were, knowing what they were pitching. They thought they knew better. They thought they were trying to create this business model around a couple of fighters. And Kimbo Slice was one of them. And on that debut night, that big deal fight, Ken Shamrock had a clash of heads in training and fucking had to pull out from a big cut. And they put in a kid named Seth Petrozelli. Seth Petrozelli, kickboxer out of South Florida, legit guy, competed at light heavyweight most of his career and a bit of heavyweight. Seth comes in, cracks Kimbo Slice inside of the first minute, drops him on his face, and finishes him. At that moment, it was very evident that they fucked up asking him to keep it on the feet.
Yeah.
Because Kimbo Slice, while a competent boxer, was far from elite.
Yeah. And he was much older than everybody.
Inches. What's that?
He was much older than everybody. By the time he was actually getting
by the time he got into the fucking fight world, and that's the thing. The guy came in. The reason he gained so much respect from people is because
he started at 40,
and B, he was humble coming into the UFC, coming into mixed martial arts, knowing he didn't know a lot about grappling. He would go to various gyms in Miami, ones that I had trained at. You'd see him at places trying to get mat time with people prior to his stint in the UFC, and he was not a dick. No, I've never met anybody be like Kimbo's a dick. You know what I mean?
I'm saying,
humble, kind guy.
And you kind of see it with the videos of him, even when he's fighting, when his promoters and shit who are dicks, and would try to make the fight unfair. He would he'd be wrecking some guy, but then his promoters would come in and push the guy down. He'd be like, "No, up, we're fighting." Yeah. And then
there was even times supposedly where he booted guys from his camp that were disrespectful.
I believe it because I was watching. He was fighting some cop in Miami. It's one of the bigger YouTube videos.
Sean the Cannon Gannon.
Yeah.
He lost that fight. They were
no, it was different.
Where they met.
No.
Well, there's several fights, but the cop that he fought that was the most famous is a guy named Sean the Cannon Gannon. He was a Boston cop. He actually lost his job due to that fight. And I want to say the guys from Boston came down and the guys from Florida went up, and they met somewhere in Virginia or some shit like that, and had this fight in a gym. And it's one of the most knockdown, drag out, brutal matches.
It wasn't
long 30-second counts when one of them gets dropped. It was a crazy fight.
No, there was no count. There was no count in the one I was watching, and they said it was definitely in Miami. But
okay, so this might have been a Miami cop or something. Then?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a Miami cop. But Kimbo Slice was just kind of wrecking him, and nobody was really doing anything. And then and they were doing rounds, but it was in a gym. You could see the pillars. It was a dark gym. It was pretty dingy looking.
This sounds like the Shannon the Cannon.
Yeah. It ends with Kimbo Slice getting hit a couple times, but he doesn't go down, and his camp swarms him.
Yeah, but he's
pushes...
standing up from exhaustion, and he's
no, but his camp
essentially a TKO.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't seen the end of it. I guess the only videos that I've seen
super long.
Yeah,
it's super not.
But Kimbo Slice is
no fighting.
Yeah, they were just hitting each other, but every time, but every time the cop hit him, Kimbo Slice's camp would come swarm them and separate them. And I was like,
they would clinch. They would clinch, and then
no.
Gannon would knee him. That's what would happen over and over again.
No, I saw a clean. The last one was a clean hit by him, that I saw. And then that's when
Again,
literally like
we may not be talking about the same
I think
fight,
we're
but I
talking about
know-
different ones.
I
But like
know because when you said a dark gym with pillars that didn't look like quite like a gym, that sounds like the Shannon the Cannon fight. But they would scrap, and these motherfuckers would get into a tussle. And what do you call?
well, what I was saying
throwing
was
and going.
what I-
And when they would clinch,
Yeah.
and Gannon would either hit him or knee him in the clinch, Kimbo's guys would swarm him up, and then they would split him up, and there was yelling and talking after that each time. That was something that would happen over and over again too, because there would be these very call them loose rule sets in a lot of those fights. So like what
the unspoken rules.
I don't know if I've told this story before, but I'll tell it. So when you're a young fighter coming up, it's hard to make money because all the jobs that you're going to do are like bruiser jobs. So some guys get into illegal shit, guys get manual labor job, whatever. You get a lot, but you got to have energy to train. You know what I mean? Like it's difficult to maintain some schedules when you want to train hard, right? Especially back then when you would like, you didn't realize back then people didn't know as much, and you would a lot of the time you'd fucking fight to train. You know what I mean?
That's
and
the only way.
Beat the shit out of each other. So what myself and my boy Gabe, one of my very best friends in the world, hopefully one day we'll have him on the podcast, the legendary Gabe Stanley. He was the bass player for FLA. And I'll tell a funny story. Gabe was my buddy in high school. We knew each other from school. We didn't really become friends in school. We became friends right after because we went on a string of, we'll call them nighttime adventures. Yeah. Yes. And we became buddies through a good buddy, Chris, who owns a really awesome rod company called Sharkbound. And later on, when I started fighting, Gabe was a good little wrestler in high school, and I needed some help with some wrestling stuff, and I pulled him in. He got into fighting and did several grappling tournaments, and he might have even done 1 or 2 MMA matches. But one of the things we used to do back in those days when we were scrounging for money, we would, get as much money together as we could in advance of a tournament and try and camp somewhere like, somebody's house nearby wherever we were going, or we would scrape together money for a hotel and spend, as much time as we could afford to spend at the location so we could feel good and acclimated. Even if it wasn't a lot of travel, you don't want to be like still recovering from an 8-hour drive or a 10-hour drive, so on and so forth. We learned that early. And we would go to gyms and you would sandbag, you would like take a jiu-jitsu class and intentionally look like shit, or whatever the martial art was. I just used that example because I can think of one right off the top of my head that was a particularly fun one.
Yeah.
And a move that I even used to do with the gi pants, because whenever you go into a new jiu-jitsu gym, especially back then, they would have like loaner gis to give you to wear, and when you're a big guy, they would have like a gigantic one. So if you were like, as fat as you could be, or even a little fat, it's going to fit you either way, right?
Yeah.
And one move I would love to do is I'd have my jock strap on, right, with like tighty whities, and the gi pant has its own drawstring, right?
Yeah.
And it's got a specific way that you tighten it, like on the sides you start and then at the front. And I would not tie it properly intentionally, and I would hold it up with my belt so that by the time that we're running to warm up, they're already dropping, and I look completely inept. I'm overweight. And then Gabe would do the same thing. Gabe's move would be he'd be really stiff, and so we would look bad, and then we would scout your talent, right? You're looking for somebody who's going to be maybe easy to goad, right? Somebody who's like a high test guy, like a fired up guy, or like an impatient higher belt, something like that. And then you get into conversations at the end of the night and you're friendly, but then you go from friendly to a little bit competitive, and then from competitive to like challenging. Yeah. And we would challenge guys in these gyms and say like, jiu-jitsu's cool, man. This is my first class, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think I can just like pull myself out of these positions. We knew the buttons to push. And then you'd get somebody to agree to a no holds barred or a no rules or a valetudo or an MMA rule or whatever. You'd come up with a shady rule system, whatever it might be. And you'd step onto the mat with each other and have a scrap. And most of the time, They would severely underestimate you based on what they saw that night. And then you've got a guy like my boy Gabe, who wrestled for 3 years in high school and then competed pretty heavily in submission grappling and had a lightning fast overhand right and a really mean left to the body and a really mean, left front kick. And then you had me, who just, I can really fucking box. So like the amount of times where somebody never even got to attempt to grapple during that fucking tenure of our time, that's how we would get money together. We'd put bets down. We'd be like, I bet you 500 right now, bro. Like, yo, 500, you got 500 on. You're like, bro, I'm caked up. What's up, son? I got money. And then you fucking, that'd be like every dime you had in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a lot of the time it would be like up to your partner to make sure you collect the money and get the money out of there.
Yeah.
Even if you can't get out right away. Even if there's some discussion or some arguing or some whatever, because then maybe you got to knock a couple more heads. Maybe you got to take some lumps. But if you got out of there with $1,500 when you staked 500, you're doing all right.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So you'd have those fights and those types of moments were like the world I grew up in. And then from there, you couldn't always get legal sanctioned fights in the state of Florida at that time. So we'd be at the Miccosukee Reservation.
So then So that's what you were talking about with Kimbo, like it was the loose set of rules.
Yeah.
Well, like
absolutely.
So
that's what would happen. You'd have something happen, and you have maybe one guy thinks he's allowed to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And those sometimes would degenerate into fucking huge brawls.
That's how it ended.
More than once.
The video that I was saying, like that's how it ended.
Yeah, it ended with all the Boston cops and all the Kimbo guys arguing and shit, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
It sounds like the Cannon video.
But the thing that I remember from the end
we should watch that as a podcast.
That would be a good podcast.
A Kimbo Slice retrospective.
But like the thing I remember from the video, the thing I remember from that video, for either that video or the video that I watched, is that like when the last clean shot that the cop got on him, Kimbo was like, that was like a good shot. And then when they started to swarm him, he was like, because he was bigger than his entire crew, he was just like, he was like, no, that was like good. And then
Kimbo was he seemed like a just man.
Well, like he knew that it was a clean hit, and he knew that his crew was like overstepping. And he was like, "Listen, it's not a fight." Like he had this look on his face, and the way he was trying to it looked like he was trying to police his people. At the end, it seemed like he was like, "Listen, it's not a fight. If every time he hits me, you guys come in and stop him, like this isn't a fight. This is me just beating up a dude." And he doesn't look like the type of guy, or sound like the type of guy that would have wanted to just, we're just gonna beat up a guy in a corner. Like, no, that's not why he's doing that, Yeah. But I think that's for me.
Indicative of like warrior spirit too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like legit, the guy was a real deal. That's why you had stories of like Dana White shitting on him early on, and then eventually coming
like
around.
Loving him. Yeah.
Deal guy, because he came in humble, man. He didn't have an ego about it. And that's the other thing, man. It's very rare that you see somebody who puts in, and I'm not going to say it's very rare, because there's like a guy at every gym, I think, or at 50% of gyms or whatever, but it's pretty uncommon for people who really put in a lot of work training to have an uncontrollable ego.
Yeah.
It happens. It happens enough to where you can point to certain examples for sure.
Yeah.
But most of the time, even people with egos have a degree of respect for people who they know put in the time and put in the training and who understand and who are capable of what have you. We talked about this in the past with like people portraying tough guys, and trying to sell you on an idea of what they can or will do to you, as opposed to what the fuck a real tough guy is like, and how they're going to approach that scenario. Because if someone who is a real like if Mike Tyson wanted to terrorize you, right? Then he would say like, I'm gonna go to your house and I'm gonna fuck your wife and you can't do anything about it. You're gonna love it and you're not gonna be able to do anything because I'm Mike Tyson.
Wait, dude, with this like quality that you got going now, that sounded really good. That impersonation.
I've been watching Iron Mike my whole life. That's like a 90s Michael Tyson right there.
Spot
just so you know.
on. It was fucking spot on.
If he wanted to terrorize you, that would be the tact to take.
Yeah.
But if he wanted to hurt you, he would just fucking hurt you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it would happen quick, because there are guys who train their entire lives and built their livelihood around hurting people and preventing themselves from being hurt, who could not stop him from dispatching them in seconds.
Yeah.
So you look at the difference between a paper tough guy, between a man,
Yeah,
somebody who wants to portray
you had to
something.
remind me of that because like we were talking about a certain individual when like we first started hanging out, and then
It's
like
very evident for me to see what you see in me with technology. You don't live in that world every day.
mhm.
You
But I know
respect
that
it, you appreciate it, you know what people in it.
no, but I
But
know
you're not
more
in it every,
people
you're not
like
immersed.
you. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't immersed in it, so like especially like I told you years before how I would fuck with people that would wear the tap out shit, and then I ran
Well,
into
look,
that real guy from American Top Team, and he was just like,
he thought it was
and he
funny.
was like, that's fucking funny, but he let me
Yeah.
think that I was gonna die for a second,
Yes.
and I was
But
like,
that's the game of it.
oh
That's the fun
shit,
part. That's
yeah,
the
dude,
jockish
he gave
joking.
me the biggest hug though. After he's like, you're okay. He was like, you're
Yeah.
okay, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. But then I
And he
remembered
probably
back to that
did the
after
fact
you
that
were
had
talking
some
to me.
balls.
Yeah, I think that's what he said to me like later
Well,
on.
the reason I like him with the technology is because I don't know how many times you've told me like, no, see, you know this.
Yeah.
No, see, you got
same
look,
thing,
you
yeah.
did it. Look, you.
It was
and
exactly
I had
the same thing.
feeling when you
Yeah.
talked to me about that individual, where I'm like, dude, you know
know
me.
Yeah.
You know Mike Morris. Like, you know Marlon. You know dudes who actually could
Like,
fuck somebody up
Yeah.
at any second.
Mhm.
And this guy's not that. You know what
No,
I mean?
yeah,
Like, this guy
exactly.
is not that. Not even close. Like,
Yeah.
he's just playing games. Like, he's acting like that's what he is. And it's true. Like, it's one of those things where some people need to feel big, and they don't know how to do
It's
it.
true. I
Or
also
they're trying to make other
forget.
people feel small.
I also forget that he is physically, and like the people that I would
He's diminutive. Yes.
yeah. There's a lot of people that in like the group of people that like we hang out with down here that are like that. They're very small, and they feel like they need to do like be big, but then they end up just showing how like mentally small they are too. So like,
Yes. How many times do we see that displayed, like social media,
Yeah.
and then again roundly
And
in
I-
person when you see those people not be able to like cope with their failure socially.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like when they
Yeah.
act that way on social media, and then they can't be like,
So I think I'll
that was
use
unreasonable.
yeah
Like,
I'll use some of their terms. I think we have like a tall privilege, where like my dad is very short, like shorter than most people, right? And I could tell by like fifth grade when I was the same height as him, he was already starting to like get mad at that. Like, but
mhm.
my dad's not a direct person. He's like he insults you like the way like a very straight sounding gay guy would, like very passive aggressively.
Like my grandma.
Yeah. So
Like, oh, Andrew, you're so smart. You could have been a lawyer,
No,
or
no,
a
no.
doctor.
and then
You
he
could
would
have
always
done a lot with your life.
and then like I would try to stand up straight because my mom would always hit me in the back, like to get me to stand up straight because that's what like her parents did. And then he was always trying to get me to not stand up straight because he's like, don't loom over short people. You know, you're not better than them because you're taller than them. I'm like, I never thought these things. Like, so like I forget that I'm
hey, Dad,
tall.
it sounds kind of like you're pushing your shit onto me.
Yeah. But like I didn't make the connections then. But like now I'm like I forget that I'm tall because of like somehow I valued my dad's opinion over my mom's like in a lot of things. So I just automatically was like, yeah, it's not good to be tall. And then like I
From what you
forget.
told me about your mom, she seemed like it seems like maybe your dad, even though he wasn't the most stable guy, maybe offered more consistent stability because even if he wasn't doing the right thing, you knew what he was going to do.
Yeah. I could
You know
figure
what I
out. Yeah, he had a predictability about him that was easier
Yeah, he had a
to handle.
pattern or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. Like,
So, like I think we forget too, because like we're very friendly, I feel,
yes.
just in general to people, but also, like you by yourself or me by myself doesn't look friendly walking up.
No.
And
no,
then-
and I got a mug. Somebody
Yeah.
told me like I got a Rottweiler mug. I got like a real, you know what I mean?
And
Like
same thing with me, like not like that.
a
I
chick
just
told
don't
me I got a
look happy.
Rottweiler mug and a Saint Bernard body.
Well, and also people have told me like your voice doesn't sound like it should come out of you, to me, and I'm like,
I've
okay.
heard that one a lot.
Yeah, because like, I think people expect yo motherfucker, like yeah, ooh, like tough guy, the fucking stupid tough
the
guy
best
voice.
is when people
And
are
we're just
like,
like,
"Oh,
hello."
send me your music."
Yeah,
Well, they're like,
yeah.
send me your music, and I send me and Morrison doing like country roads, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I thought you were gonna send me a metal band."
Yeah, stuff
Never
like
been
that.
in a metal band. I just got tattoos and a bald head. Like that's it.
Yeah.
That's the only thing metal about me. Like
I
that's
think
it.
people like we forget that like because everybody's so little. Like on average compared to us.
Yeah, because I'm not. Listen, I grew up competing with heavyweights. I'm a small heavyweight. I'm 6'1"
Yeah.
at the top. You know what I mean? I'm thick.
Mhm.
I'm big. I
Dude,
got a big body, but I'm not super tall. I don't. But the average height's what, 5'8" of the average male?
5'11".
Oh, I thought it was 5'8" was
No.
average.
Unless
Google
it's
that.
shrinking.
Google that shit. I thought the average height in America, or the average world height, was 5'8".
Oh no, it's 5. We're both wrong. It's 5'9" now.
Okay.
You were closer.
That was close.
You were closest
No, but-
without going over.
Drew
Price
Carey,
is-
Bob
Price is
Barker's
right.
ghost is coming for your dog's balls.
That's right. Well, for American men, 20 to 69. No, 20 years old and up is 69.1 inches.
69.
69. 69.1 inches, 175.4 centimeters. That's about 5 feet 9 inches tall.
Yeah.
That's as of 2018. So that could even be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, how did they know in
that's
that time
5'9".
You need like 10 years, right?
Wasn't it growing up 5'11" though? Like when we were
No,
kids?
I always thought it was 5'9". I always thought it was you wanted to be
like 5'11" or
over
taller.
5'10". That was
Yeah.
always like the thing. Like when I was a kid, I
That was
remember
real
I
quick
think it was
for like that was quick for me at least. I don't know how quick that was for you.
So for me, like my
Like
best
in
friend
6th
Tommy
grade.
Donuts from our show Tom
Boom.
Eats It, will be back in May. But Tom and I were both
Now you
in
plug
junior
stuff.
high.
You're on the stage in front of a shitload of people in
fucking-
Lake Worth with me yelling, podcast, hey Andrew,
Hey, listen,
podcast.
I don't have
Fuck it.
several cocktails in me at this point though. That's the difference. I just got a little bit of boozy coffee. But what do you call? Tommy Donuts and I were both 5'8" and 180-ish, 170-ish pounds at the end of junior high. We were like the exact same size. We
Oh.
were very physically competitive. That was like a big part of our early friendship. And by the time high school came around, I think I was around 5'11" and around 220,
Oh.
maybe 240 even. And by the time 10th grade came around, I was like, by the time the summer of 10th grade, I was already around 6 foot. So I had like one particular summer where I went from being a pretty beefy kid, like
Yeah.
a 5'8", 180-pound 8th grader is pretty big. And I went from being a pretty beefy kid to like a straight up ogre.
Yeah.
And that was actually when I started getting into more fights and shit, not at school, but I'd be like, growing up in West Palm Beach, especially like the area I did was, a lot of
Just fighting.
and people from Central America and shit and South
Yeah.
America that were, running the streets, so to speak. You know what I mean? So you'd be like walking around, you look like a grown ass dude, especially to a dude who's maxing out at 5'5".
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They've been
So
an
he doesn't
adult
give a
for
fuck
years.
how old you are. You're a big ass
Yeah.
kid, and if some shit pops off, he's gonna fight you hard. And I had that experience multiple times where it's like, oh, these are grown men, and they're all fighting me because I'm big. And they're little. Fuck, like that.
Yeah.
When you grew up around it, and then also too, like, I'd go to my dad's neighborhood in Miami. It was the height of jumping. That was
Mhm.
like the height of like, that was the biggest fear. And I got jumped one time, and my pop picked me up, saw me getting jumped, and everybody scattered. He was like, "You know the kid's name? Yeah. You know where his house is? Yeah." He took me there, and he said he was gonna make me fight the kid, and the kid's dad didn't want to let us
Oh,
fight.
you told me this, yeah.
And I
And
don't know if
then
I
your
told it on the
dad-
podcast ever. This was actually my stepdad.
Yeah, and your
brother and
stepdad
sister's
was like,
dad.
oh, well, then we're going to fight or whatever, right?
Yeah, and no, my stepdad
Yeah.
was like, "Okay, Andrew, fight him.
Yeah. Fight the
Fight
man.
his pussy ass dad." And I was like, "What?" And my stepdad was not a boxer like my dad was, but he was a hard man. He was like a
Yeah.
tough man. He grew up in Miami, in the bad old days.
Oh,
And
yeah.
He was
He's
a
seen some
manual
shit.
labor, hard, physically construction working guy. I actually think, like, if my dad didn't know how to fight, my stepdad probably could have taken my dad, like, on physicality. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, but my stepdad, this particular kid would pick on me a little bit in the neighborhood. And I was like a nice kid. I like to draw and play and shit. I was
Yeah.
a pretending ass kid. You know what I mean? And
You just
I
happened to
remember
be
him being
big.
like, and I was big, yeah. And him being like, "Fight his pussy ass dad." And me being like, "What, Papa Ray?" And he's like, "Fight his dad. He's not gonna do shit. Watch. And if he touches you, I'm gonna fucking touch him." And I remember he had this van that had like he did glass work at the time, and it had like that rack on the side where you
yeah.
put big sheets of glass. And he was Ray was strong. He could pick up these big sheets that you would definitely need two
Jesus.
dudes to lift.
Yeah.
And slap him right up there. And he had the strength to do it like slowly. You know what I mean? Like
accurate.
Showed he had like Popeye he had like Popeye forearms and shit from that kind of work. And I remember the dad being like, "What?" And I was a good kid and I was a nice kid, but like I had some anger stuff, I guess. Yeah. And as soon as he told me hit that guy, I fucking hit the dude. And fucking the dude, like I remember him turning to me like, "What the fuck?" And as soon as he turned like he was gonna do something to me, my stepdad looked at him and was like, he was like, "All right," and he tells his son, "Go fight him, go fight him, go fight him." And we never fought again, me and that kid. We scrapped it out on the lawn that day. And I think even he and my stepdad were like coolish at the end of it. But I fucking clocked that dude as hard as I could with a fucking overhand, right? At fucking like, I must have been 8 years old.
Yeah, these guys don't. The guys like in our circle, like they don't have like these stories of like growing up on like the streets. Basically, they have the stories of like growing up on the streets. And I wasn't even like a hood kid. There was cousins of mine that were more hoodish. I had parents in the home who made sure I came home at night and shit like that. I told you like growing up very well off the way I did, and then like being forced to go out in the world. I don't know how in the crazy like Asian and hillbilly white people that like influenced me like growing up, but I would just talk to anybody, and like I there were times when like I would be hanging out with my rich friends, and then I would like go off because I just do that and start talking to a random stranger, right? And then like I end up at a party and like I get like tons of free drugs and maybe I get to fuck like a hood girl. That's pretty awesome to me, right? As like a fucking rich kid. And then like
listen, you were visiting. You were visiting.
Yeah. But I didn't condescend to them. I talked to them like right. But here's the funny thing. And then I would like go back and hang out with like the rich kids again, and then I would see like some of the random hood people, and then I would notice my friends would be like scared, and I'm like, and I'd be like, I'd say goodbye to my like hood like low class friends, and then I'd be like, why you know those guys? And they're like, oh, they robbed us one time. I was like, oh, they robbed you. They didn't rob me. If they knew I had more money than you. And then like my one buddy
rob you, yeah.
No, my one buddy was like, no, we could tell, man, that like you're better off than these guys probably, but like you're not a dick. And I'm like, I just want to be friends. And they're like, yeah, man, we're friends.
A friend of mine who I will not name because I've named him on the show before and I don't want him to get upset or in trouble. But his mom had some cash. His mom married a dude with some cash. And his dad, although was a hardworking guy, was a guy who worked a couple jobs. And because he was a single guy and had his kid only, he had the kind of shit you would give your kid if you were just him and you and your kid. You know what I mean? Like, Dad, can I have a remote control thing that's cool?
Sure.
Like, yeah, why not? Yeah. Like, yeah, exactly. Like, that's how Dad... Yeah. Unless you're being a prick, sure. You know what I mean? Like, so I remember we were hanging out, and I don't know if we were going to get some weed or something like that, me and my brother. And this friend was like, oh, I'll drive you. I want to go see the hood. And he like brought some girl and like another friend. Actually, he brought, I'll name this friend because he's my boy, like Gabe, my buddy Gabe.
Yeah.
And we're going down to the hood, and I remember realizing at that moment, like, oh, this motherfucker's at Lion Country Safari. You know what I mean? Like, because we went to the same high school. Yeah. We went, and this particular guy, we used to joke around and say he was rich. And I remember one time him being like, hey, don't say that because I don't want people to just try and be my friend because they think I've got.
Yeah, no, I know that.
And he wasn't even like rich, but he had like a car, and he had, to us, he was rich. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, and so we went down, and we took his mom's car. She had a really nice white Impala. It was clean as fuck, and I loved it. That was the car that made me love Impalas. And I remember one time we stopped, and he's like, "What are we? He didn't want to stop." And me and my brother got out, and we got like some food and shit, like at a little fucking spot.
Yeah.
And he was really like wanting to get, like, it was too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was the time where I recognized, like, oh, not everybody is like, I don't know, comfortable in every scenario, in every situation. You know what I mean?
I tell you that I still am not comfortable in the situations, but I think it's more like my dad. He's like, what's the weird nihilist thing that he like programmed into my head as a child? Like, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to die. And I'm like,
it's done.
And he's like, and when you're dead, you don't care.
I don't think that's nihilist. I think that's man shit, dude. I think that is man shit because my grandfather gave me...
But I'm like pissing my pants in a lot of these situations. And but I'm like manning through it, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not over like, oh yeah, bro, I could do it. I'm just like, nope, yep, that's good. Like I'm masking the piss running down my leg and the sweat
Sure.
that's pouring out
That's
of
what
my
you're
body,
supposed to do, though.
right?
As a man, right?
Yeah,
I hate that you can't even say that anymore, but like as a man, your job is to
Yeah.
fucking keep it together. You have a family. I have a family. If
No, I'm
nothing
talking
else-
like before. Like when I was
know that,
young
but I'm
and
just
dumb
saying-
and just
I'm
running
saying
around.
you didn't
whatever.
understand, but I'm saying you might not have understood it then.
Yeah.
But now I'm sure you do. That as a man, you got one job. Really, at the end of the day, you got one job. If you take it back to animal shit, right? Most apex predators that live with their mate, the female acquires the food.
Yeah.
Lions are the best example of that,
Mhm.
right? If it's an apex predator that they live together, one has got a job of acquisition and one has got a job of protection. Those are usually the way that animal pairings, you know what I mean, go. Especially if they're constantly living together like a pride or a pack, right?
Yeah.
With human beings, if nothing else, the female creature is supposed to make things livable. And I don't mean like you're supposed to cook and clean. I mean like
No, I understand.
It's a natural function of
They
like
make the house a home.
Well, yeah, but it's also like you
Kinda
talk
thing,
about like
yeah.
feminine intuition, feminine touch, where it's like, no,
Yeah.
this is gonna be better. Do it this way. For
Yeah.
certain shit, my wife says it to me, I just go like, yeah. But when I tell my wife like, hey, pay the fuck attention at the ATM.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's an intuition that I can't help.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where I think that's an innate thing as a male of the species where you want to be a protector. You know what I mean? You have an imperative. And part of that is composure. I used to say all the time in fighting, the 3 C's will get you to the W. The 3 C's are being calm, cool, and composed in the worst possible situations that you can find yourself in. That's why I love jiu-jitsu now, because I'm not as proficient at it as I was in striking arts. So sometimes I'm just like, oh, I'm drowning, but I can breathe. That's what's happening to me right now. So I'll just have to weather this.
Yeah.
I'll have to weather this. And so in those same situations where you're like pissing yourself, you learned a valuable skill set in like, okay, well, I'm feeling this way, but I'm not going to show my hand in one essence. And also I'm not going to be unaware. Like you're creating the essence of man right there, where you're figuring out how to fucking carry yourself. And that's like something that I think young men are losing now. I see so many people, like I've said earlier tonight, overshare and boastfully preach and this and that. And it's like, I miss stoicism. I
like my stories are like, I didn't cry. Like, like this guy threatened me with a gun and I didn't cry. Like, I'm happy. Well, what else did you? I peed, but I didn't cry. He didn't see me cry. Like, that's like my proud tough guy stories, you know, like.
Yeah, and then my stories are like, so I'm sitting there next to my mother's corpse, and I'm
right?
thinking,
Yeah, that's once again, like I was saying with Doug, that's the difference. Like, like one of my favorite like I got out alive stories is like my ex-girlfriend hung out with my Asian family a lot, so she heard like a lot of racist jokes, right? So she believed me when I said Asians most racist, and she's a Cuban woman, right? So she's like, oh wow, they're more
also
racist.
very racist.
Yeah, she's like, oh
also
wow, they make me uncomfortable with their racism.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. People
shit.
assume Italians because of some Spike Lee movies that they saw
But
and shit
no,
are gonna be
it's
racist.
fucking-
The Italian side of my family is way more welcoming than the Cuban side of my family.
So we were out at the Publix shopping center off of Village that used to have a bunch of bars. We would go to those bars because we were like 25, and everybody was making jokes, and they were like, Mike, tell some of your jokes, and I was like, they're not appropriate. Specifically not appropriate because there was a table full of black guys right next to us, and I knew the jokes that they were trying to ask me on purpose because there were a bunch of black guys there.
Because of the table.
And I was like, no, I'm not.
Hilarious, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not gonna join in on me getting my ass kicked, right? And they were like, it's funny. And then my ex-girlfriend was hammered drunk as usual, and she was just like, no, but you're the most racist guy I know. And I was like, I am not. Cool. Oh, thanks. And I just look over, and all those guys just look at me, and they're like, really? And I'm like, no, not really. She's drunk. And they're like, well, we're still going to fuck you up. And I was like, all right. Oh, this is about to happen. And then this is the worst sentence I've ever said in my entire life. Luckily,
Oh boy.
for me, not for the other people, luckily for me, a dude started mercilessly beating his girlfriend in front of them, and they fucked that dude up while I was like, "You got to ride home, bitch." And she was like, "Oh my god, don't call me a bitch." Like yelling at them, and I was like, "They can't hear you. They're busy beating up that dude." And I just fucking left her there with my friends, and I drove home. I was just like,
Wow.
"You fucking tried to get me beat up, you dumb bitch." But like I said, it's the worst sentence I've ever said. Luckily, a guy started like I've never like I've hung out with hillbillies. I've told you, like in the middle of cornfields, that will like open slap their wife in public. But like, I even think those guys would have been like, "Hey man,"
Yeah.
they're like, "Hey man,
Hey,
wait, whoa, what you doing in public?" Like
You gotta clean her up after, buddy. You ain't
go,
thinking this through.
Go take her back
You
to your
gotta set
trailer.
them bones, boy.
But like, it was really confusing because it was a hood white dude with tattoos all over and like on his face and his head shaved, so it looked like a gang member.
A real gentleman.
Yeah, and he like threw his drink at her and like the glass broke on her, and that like I was just like, oh shit. Like I was like, I think
Having
I was
a daughter,
like,
that kind of shit is like,
dude, I was like maybe
so
I
unnerving.
should like, to get these guys on my side, join them, right? Like let's all beat the fuck out of this guy. But like it stopped like them coming towards me and me going like my jaw dropped, and then he just like slapped down her a couple times, and then when he closed his fist, all those guys were like, whoa, 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 and then like I was like, get the fuck out of here right now, like that guy's dead. That guy's definitely dead, but like
that guy's getting jolly stomps.
I am not dead. That's why I said, unfortunately for her, but luckily for me, at the exact moment they decided, all right, let's go fuck this guy up.
Christ.
Dude, that was
See,
that's my. See, those are my like tough guy stories. Luckily, somebody started beating their girlfriend, so I could get away.
As many times as I've seen somebody get connected on and being knocked unconscious or choked unconscious, whatever. I've seen people get their limbs snapped for not tapping on time or whatever. Like, and then I've seen, violence in the world as well, right? Like, seen it around. Like, there was a guy.
Wait, to her credit, she wasn't crying. Which makes me think
Shock
either like
is a motherfucker.
Like no, like
shock is a motherfucker, and
she
could also have been rocked and concussed.
I don't think that was the first time, but I think that was the first time in public with a lot of people around. Like I said, I've never I've seen some horrifying shit.
You can
but
receive a concussion.
I felt like she was hard though.
But you can receive a concussion from getting hit in the chest or having any kind of impact. And if you're concussed, your cognition is not where it needs to be to understand everything around you.
I mean, so I've seen women get slapped.
I would imagine.
And
I'm just saying, I would imagine if she was completely silent, it
no,
was probably a factor of
she was
literal shock.
Doing
she was fighting him
some
back.
stuff. Yeah, she was mad.
Okay, well,
she was.
Well, then if
mad.
they probably both. I was at this show at Propaganda years ago that became kind of infamous. I was working security. Mike hired myself, a good buddy named Steve Workle, who's just a fucking beast of a guy. He played arena football. He's just a big, hell of a guy and a hell of a fucking monster of a guy. You know what I mean? Physically.
We need to get him on the show. You talked about him a lot.
Yes, I like Steven a lot. And Big Pat and Mike and myself were working this show. And it was the Stitches show. It became infamous in that area. And right beside me, everything went down. So this dude's doing his thing. He's like opening kilos of flour and throwing it around. And I remember like all of us in security going like, it's not real. Okay,
it's not real.
Like, I was at least hoping I was gonna fucking have a little fun here, but it's obviously a super rowdy crowd and a super rowdy show, and we're throwing people out left and right. And Stitches was like a total prima donna. Well, he was a total prima donna too, where he'd be like, "I want to see none of that mosh and bullshit up in my show," because Old Habits, one of your favorite bands, was playing prior, and their crowd is a very different crowd than the Stitches crowd, and so there was that weirdness there in the air. But you went from the moshing energy, the crazy pit energy that those guys at Old Habits, create, to the energy of this guy who doesn't want any moshing, and it's like, you know, pillhead rap, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
And this girl gets on stage, a girl who I'd had to throw out before for being like really extra. And she gets on stage and she starts like showing her pussy and all kind of stuff, whatever, doing all the hip hop booty shaking, clapping, whatever. And she was so little too. It's always funny to me when a girl with like no ass tries to do ass stuff. But anyway, and this girl comes up, and at first I think like he's gonna pull her up onto the stage too, but he's leaning over and they're like going back and forth, and they're arguing or some shit, and she slaps him one. And then like they're arguing more. I'm like, what is going on right now? And then I realize like, oh, that's his girl. And I'm like hearing their argument. They're like, it's literally happening right next to me. And when the World Star video is out, you can see my fucking bald head in the crowd, like standing up above the, you know, the general tenor of the crowd. And the next thing I know, they get into it again. I don't think he slaps her on the stage. I think she hits him again. He goes back to the show for like a second. And then it's like, man, fuck this shit, and throws the mic down and goes to the back. And there was supposed to be a big meet and greet afterwards. We were like on for the night, right? Like it was supposed to be a whole night thing. He goes to the back of the room, and there was another band that opened up before, either in between him and Old Habits or before Old Habits, called Web 3, I think is the name of those guys at the time. They were like a local group. And he's arguing with this girl in the back. I think the impetus was she hit him again. He then hits her.
Okay.
And the fucking room exploded, bro. The dudes from the opening band were trying hard to get at him. His security and entourage were just flattening dudes. And we're trying to get the last, I think his DJ and his like 15-year-old hype man in a fucking Hellraiser mask were still on the stage with a fucking kilo of fake Coke.
Yeah.
And fucking, or that might have been the real one for later, I don't know. Fucking, but they're on the stage. So me and Werkel, I think Pat was like pushing through the crowd trying to get people out the door with Mike.
Yeah.
And me and Werkel were like getting his people on stage to the back of the room, if I remember correctly. And by the end of the night, I just remember I'm running like rear guard. Pat's running with the Hellraiser kid, running him to these guys' van to get them out of the fucking room. And then like there was like a whole thing where like he was throwing the Coke all over security, the fake Coke. But none of us got mad. I didn't get mad because he was trying to look like fuck authority. Totally. Like whatever, dude. Put on your show. You want to make me a part of your show? Cool, man. Slap me a hundo at the end of it, at least. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Show motherfuckers some love. But some people who were like friends of Werkel's and mine, whatever, got upset at that. So that already created a thing. Then this thing had, man, it was a fucking uproar. It was crazy. Just trying to get them out of the room. Everybody was furious. People wanted their money back. Then it was like quelling the crowd after the fact that everybody wanted fucking their money back or somebody's head or whatever. It was, I don't know what the whole beginning of that conversation was, but I remember that story very, very well. And it was a hell of a fun, weird.
I was talking about how my tough guy stories are I survived and I didn't cry.
But again, these are all these kind of situations too, where it's like, what is your, like you could have a conversation with David, who we've had on the show a bunch of times, one of my favorite guests, about tech stuff that goes over my head like that, where it's like my tech story is I tried to get an Uber and it didn't work, and I threw my phone into the weeds outside the Atlanta Philharmonic, and Tom had to go find it. And you guys are having a whole different, like the world is so much more different. My fucking buddy tried to explain a non-fudgeable token to me.
Okay. And
I told him like, hey, listen, I was like, you gotta stop talking to me about this right now. And he's showing me like this is a digital car and you can buy it and you can drive it in the digital space. And I was like, I don't know what that means, and I don't think I want to ever know what that means.
Yeah.
If you mean like you can play a video game where you drive a car, cool. But if you're telling me this is worth $60,000, I'm angry now.
Yeah.
Don't understand it, and it makes me want to break it. That's all it makes me want. It makes me want to destroy everything that makes it possible. So don't show me.
See,
don't show me, because I'll go on a barbarian crusade.
Maybe people like me like showing them tech stuff because I don't tell them things are just to be.
Well, it's like anything else, though. You're going down a lane where you understand the nuance.
Well, I'm trying
like
to.
You and me could talk fights.
The
we could
value.
talk Kimbo Slice.
I'm trying to. I present the value, like you said.
Right.
The value.
But you're understanding
of
that world to a whole different degree, and I think that's the thing that you and me appreciate.
Well, that's why I can't reach the height of it. Like that's what I share in common with my dad. Like I'm higher than the average intermediate person at most things, but I can't reach the expert level because I can't disassociate myself from everything else to focus solely on the one thing.
Ah, that's really interesting. That's how I kind of felt about combat sports. That's really interesting.
Dude, it's a thing though. Like you're like you're not gonna beat a world champion. I'm not gonna be the best guitar player in the world. I'm not gonna be the best tech person in the world. But 99% of the people on the planet, I do know more than about.
Right, you're gonna hang
my
with
specialties.
Yeah.
You're
gonna hang in the top 20.
Which then, no, that's the thing. But it seems like I am to 99%.
Well, no, and it's like on any given night, maybe you could.
Yeah, that's why.
You know what I mean? It's like the same thing with me, where it's like, if you caught me on the right night, with the right camp, with the right circumstance, if I had the right year before that, you could have put a belt around me at one point in time. When I was 25, if you took me and said, "Hey, we're gonna put you with Freddie Roach for your hands.
You're
we're
gonna
put you
fucking do
with
it.
Enzo Gracie for your jiu-jitsu, and we're gonna isolate you from your family and all their crazy bullshit
you had a
nonsense."
life. But you had a life, and we're doing other things too. That's the balance of it.
And other responsibilities.
Exactly. And I think that's why we're like the sanity level we are, having lived the lives that we have led. Because like,
failing
I feel like
is important.
Yeah, failing's important, but I think that obsessiveness is it's not as necessary as it should be for people. Like I think the natural that doesn't need to train that much, that can compete with those people that have to train that much, I think that should just be them. Does that make sense?
Right.
At that level? Like if you're not a natural to where you don't have to train 12 hours a day, where like you could train 4 hours a day. Yeah, you shouldn't do it. Exactly. Like I understand the human spirit of like pushing yourself, and it's very admirable. However, what if that guy decides to train 12 hours a day? Now you have zero chance.
That play out in sport too, though. Like especially sports.
But those guys then are on their own level. Like they're their omega level.
Yeah.
But like but I'm saying the whole
some people
level
have the curse
of being
of talent
paid
as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the whole level of being paid, I feel like should be the natural.
But what I'm saying is like some people are afflicted with their talent, in that like you are what's the best way that I could try and describe it? Like BJ Penn is a great example.
This is where I
used to say
I don't like it, but I understand the way that the Cuban guy was selected for his genetics to be a fighter. Yeah. I love you, Jesus, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen,
like
my
he's
pop
a genetic
didn't teach my
freak.
brother Mario how to box.
Yeah.
My pop made sure Mario had a computer to take apart. That's as much as like I disagree with a lot of the things that my dad has done or said or taught me or how he is, all that. He didn't try and make each kid be the same thing, even though he would give each kid the same amount of attention, whatever. But like I was the last one that he tried to make box because I was a fucking little animal. You know what I mean? Like my father used to choke me out sometimes. Like he would put me. I remember when Royce Gracie like came on the scene in the early '90s. I was like 10, 11 years old. I remember the first time I ever got choked out was by my dad after watching UFC 2. I think it was 1994, so I would have been like 11 years old. And he was like doing the triangle and stuff because Royce had beaten Dan. I remember watching it live on a stolen satellite box. My dad's buddy Scott Noack used to get him the satellite box, and we had it, and it went into like some crazy overtime. The fight was really long, and it just cut out. And then it played again, and we watched the whole event again just to see the end of the first fight, and it was exciting. That moment for me was probably when I decided, like, I'm gonna fight people. Like, I want to fucking fight people. I'd already boxed my whole childhood.
Awakened the natural talent in you.
Absolutely.
To do that. Yeah.
And that next day, I'll never forget. My dad is talking to his buddy Jim Marr. Jim Marr had no legs and like half a hand from their time in Vietnam. And he also did the photographs of my parents' wedding. And he also might be the reason I like thick girls, because I remember him telling me like, "Oh, they're the comfiest." Like, anyway, like fucking, and they're talking about it, and my dad's trying to explain to Jim. This is like pre-DVR days.
Yeah.
The choke, and he was showing him with his legs, and he's like, "Oh, you mean like an old sleeper hold?" And my dad's like, "Yeah, but with your legs." Andrew, come here. and he shows him with the legs,
no.
and then he shows him with the hands, and he chokes me the fuck out. He broke a bunch of capillaries in my neck.
Oh no.
It's one of the only times I ever remember my dad feeling bad
No.
about physical shit. Because
wow.
I don't think he expected me to go out because he didn't.
Yeah,
he wasn't
yeah.
versed. He was a very well versed boxer. He had been a good kickboxer, whatever. But he could do like a jumping front kick into his 50s. That was like last time I saw him probably. But he could still execute a good jumping front kick, like a turning side kick and shit like that. But he panicked and let me go and dropped me on my face. Right? So my lip busted, my capillaries all broken, and then I'll never forget, I never saw my dad. Like my mom would like say a thing, and my dad had that vibe of like, oh,
yeah,
whatever. That was the first time because he was wrong. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
where
yeah.
it was like I think maybe
It's like,
twice
oh,
ever
shit.
where I saw him, like I don't know if you'd be like remorseful or whatever at my mom's anger. Like it was righteous. You know what I mean? Her anger
Yeah.
in this situation, but that day also was another. And I never had this moment with my dad, but I remember that day being like, when I'm big enough, I'm gonna beat him fucking ass. And then I probably didn't see him from the time I was like 16 to the time I was like 19.
Yeah.
So that window of time, by the time that I saw him again and I could beat his ass, I was over it. I guess. You know what I mean? And we were like friendlier, and he was helping me get fights, and he was sponsoring events and stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, the beginning of this
and
was
robbing me, but
yeah. The beginning of this was I was like, I don't like socialism or communism, but they are very good at selecting the right person.
Yeah.
It's I don't like all. It's just like anything. All aspects of anything are not bad. Like the great thing about that communism did was like, this person is the best hockey player in the world. This person is the second best hockey player. This is
Here's
the
the
third.
issue, though.
They will be on this team, and this is all they'll do. And but they wouldn't. The crazy thing is they wouldn't be like, you're doing this forever. They're like, you still lead lives. But when you need the boost, you do the 12-hour days.
But without the freedom,
that sucks. Yeah.
Without the freedom to try, you never have Matt Serra knocking out George St. Pierre. You never have those moments in sport. You never have the American team beating
the Russians.
What was it? The Americans beat the Russians in like 89 or 88? Yep. Which year was it?
1980.
You never have those moments.
Miracle on Ice.
Where what's that? Yeah. You never have those moments.
That was just to get to the gold medal.
You never have Ali Foreman.
Yeah.
You never have Muhammad Ali after a 3-year layoff.
But
and losing his legs to Antonio Inoki.
So here's the thing, though. Like, I don't think. So I don't think you can have those moments with that. Not like even still letting those people compete. Like, you can do it, but like, just know that these people were selected genetically to be the best.
No, right? It's like,
what I mean?
Remember that Ethan Hawke movie, Gattaca?
Yeah.
Remember that shit?
Where
his brother was like, "How did you always beat me? I'm fucking genetically better than you." And he's like, "I never left anything for the swim back."
Yep.
That shit is real.
It is
an unmeasurable quotient.
Exactly. So that's the only unknown. That's the human element.
That is the human spirit.
Yes.
Is undefinable, and everyone. Listen, when Bo beat Tyson.
Yeah.
Okay, when you have these moments that are when Ali beat Liston, okay, you have these moments that show you the triumph of will. And when Randy Couture came back from a layoff,
that's what I'm saying.
After losing to Rico Rodriguez and Josh Barnett, and then in the first opening stanza of the fight, drops gigantic 7-foot tall, almost Tim Sylvia on his ass with an overhand right. When Randy Couture is not known for punching, he's known for having pillow hands and wrestling the fuck out of dudes.
But he's the natural though. Like, that's the thing. Like,
he's the natural, but he was a natural at working his ass off. Randy Couture was no natural.
So then
Randy Couture, Chael Sonnen, you've got your Matt Lindlands, you've got your Evan Tanners, you've got your Kazushi Sakurabas, who were not physical specimens.
No, I'm not talking about. No. I'm not talking about physical specimens, because like Nate Diaz is better than his brother.
But he's not a physical specimen either. Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz.
Yeah, they come from the exact same town that I come from, and either you grew up where I grew up and you speak like this, or you speak like them
grew up-
and shoot
Sure.
people from the time you're
Sure.
like 11.
Here's the thing, though,
Like,
about those guys. That's really specific.
They
really
shouldn't
specific.
have.
But
They're the talent that I'm talking about.
Here's not. It's not though. It's
Really?
not. They come from a grandfather who's a legendary track coach. Those guys were running long distance
It doesn't
before
matter.
anything else. Well, no. It is a factor because you're developing yourself. Listen, I can get punches swung at me and eat a fucking sandwich. As fat and out of shape as I am, I can slip shit all day. Because and I can hit you with a jab that will make you feel like you got hit with a fucking telephone pole. Because my father used to make me drop 1,000 jabs in the morning, and I kept that going myself. I got used to being able to take punches. It's just what you develop doing.
I guess.
Okay.
But I mean, like,
And
the
those
talent
guys developed
to go down the road.
their cardiovascular stamina and endurance.
It's
Okay,
ridiculous.
very early. They built it because they don't have knockout power. Okay.
They're just
They don't
chip
have
damage.
particularly incredible athleticism. They're
Yeah.
not hyper explosive guys, which is the marker for athleticism.
Yeah.
And for even me, I could be explosive in a spurt.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Yoel Romero is a great example of that. Even though he looks like an Adonis, he's not a guy who goes balls to the wall from the start
No.
to the finish of the fight. He almost like tries
He
to give you a
chisels.
lullaby.
Yeah, he chisels
he
you.
sits, he waits, and then and he comes
But like,
after
he
you.
was
An
chosen.
explosion.
He was chosen by like the
Absolutely.
People's Republic of Cuba. They're like, this
The thing
man,
that we're
this
also
man
not
will be the best.
recognizing is Yoel Romero that we see now is a man who is
Free?
started competing in the UFC in his late 30s.
Yeah, that's
He's
the thing.
42 or so years old now. If we would have seen him at 20,
It would have been a
might have
goddamn
been-
monster, dude. That's what
absolutely,
I'm
it
saying.
might have been a whole. So that's what I'm saying too. And then you take the other factor of natural ability, hard work, all those different things, and then you take
I also
what
bring
was
in,
not what was not organized and in play before, bro. When I was competing, everybody was on roids.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm one of the only motherfuckers that you will. There's guys like me who didn't think about it, they didn't know about it,
Mhm.
and I even think I was on a cycle of something when I was just trusting friends and coaches and people in my circle to be like, oh, try this supplement, try that supplement, try this,
Yeah.
take this for a month, you're gonna feel great. I don't know what the fuck I was taking a lot of the time. I would just try supplements. I had buddies that worked at supplement shops.
Yeah,
One of the guys in my camp, Mikey, was a great guy, and he knew about working out better than I did, so I would just take what he. So nobody monitored that shit. You would have guys come in, dude, and you could feel the difference on roid muscles too. I don't know what it is. They feel softer. They feel waterier.
well, it's because
Um,
they don't. So the way roids work is like,
Well, it depends on the roid. They all have differing effects. Most of the ones
But I
that are the
mean-
more popular ones, what they give you is the ability to recover. You don't feel the soreness
yeah.
the next day, and that's like the traditional.
is
stuff.
how-
There's other performance enhancers.
But I mean
Listen,
that
I knew dudes that were on fucking EPO before that shit was.
it's so artificial though. Like it's all artificial,
some.
which makes it.
Again, there's ones
I
that
mean,
don't.
though, yeah, that's
There's
basically
ones
like
that give you the
horse
artificial
blood.
pump.
Yeah.
I don't know what they are. Then there's other ones that make it so you can just work out like an animal all the time.
Yeah.
Those guys,
That's like horse
they
blood.
they have the strength, but the problem with those guys is they don't realize when they're working themselves toward an injury.
So Cuban.
And then you have guys
performance
like me who
enhancement.
just smoke a bunch of weed and shit and competed anyway like an animal.
So I told you, like, when I first moved down here, like, I was doing, like, what I was explaining, where I'd meet somebody, and they'd be like, yeah, let's go party. And I found that when I would meet somebody with a Cuban accent, they'd be like, oh, yeah, man, let's go fucking party. I'm like, this
guy's
is
gonna be
this is gonna be a great time, you know? It was funny, because, like, I wanted to get healthier at one point, and they were like, I don't know if this is a Cuban thing, but, like, every Cuban guy that I talked to afterwards, they were like, yeah, eat horse meat. Like, you get, like, a ridiculous pump when you eat horse meat. For some
Dutch people
reason.
say that too. Alistair Overeem talked about that all the
For
time.
some reason, right? Like when and I
So
felt
a lot
it.
of
I
guys-
felt the pump. It was weird.
You'll
like,
hear Rogan talk about it with elk.
yeah.
You'll hear him talk about it with deer.
Well,
It's like a
how
high
do-
octane animal.
Like, how does it But I want to know why, because like it's a chemical reaction that's happening. I had like unlimited energy.
So
I had unlimited,
now I can-
and I had like
I
a horse
can't-
steak. That was it. Also,
I can't speak to horse meat the same way I can with like elk and venison, but I'll say this: they eat way better than cows.
it's true.
So like if you eat a piece of grass-fed beef,
No, because
or
like
you eat a piece of corn-fed
no, you
beef,
could-
you're gonna feel differently.
no, like you can eat. I was asking him because like I was thinking the same thing, like, but like there's like bulls and like buffalo that eat really well and are like healthy for them.
Sure.
You don't get. I've had that. Like, it's just great. It's buffalo is amazing, by the
Yeah.
way. But I don't get the pump.
Love bison.
Also, too, like I've never like been like bigger.
I wonder if it's just
after
a fat
eating
content
horse meat.
issue. You know what I mean?
No, like
horse is a very low fat animal, just like deer,
I think
just like elk.
I think because they're in the same family, and not in the same family.
Civid?
Yeah, and not the same family as
They're not
cows.
bovine?
Yeah, they're not
cow-
bovine. Yeah,
bovine. So you're
I
talking
think it's
about
the
with the cow, right?
reaction.
You're talking about
yeah.
the percentage of fat
But
in the
even on a-
musculature.
But no, but that's the
differs.
thing. Like marbling on cows is a thing, but like buffalo,
Right.
it's just they're land seals. It's a layer of fat and then just shredded
depends.
muscle. Well, like
It depends
like
on
what's
their
his
diet.
faces? The
Because
fucking
you can take a buffalo. There's these two brothers. I think they're twins, and they do butchery on YouTube. I'll find
Yeah.
their name. We can like put a link. And they
What's-
show you. There's an awesome video. It's like 2 hours long.
Ted
Where they
Nugent's
take apart a cow
Ted Nugent's
and a buffalo,
buffaloes
and they
are
show you the
like
difference.
yeah. Ted Nugent's buffaloes are just free on his range.
So
Like
that's a big
those
factor
ones,
too, though. If you
yeah.
have farm raised buffalo,
Yeah,
that are
that's
eating
gonna be
grain all
that's
day,
just cow.
it's gonna be
That's
fattier.
cow.
So here's the thing, though.
But I've had a
The
Ted Nugent
buffalo-
like buffalo steak, and it didn't give me the pump. But let me just dude, like when I fucked my girlfriend at that time, I was just like I am like a fucking god right now on horse
Howard
meat.
Dickin.
But dude, and I was
Yeah.
like, did
Have you had elk before?
No, but like I was like,
Okay.
I was like,
I know what we'll be eating when you visit.
I was just like, oh, I'm fucking
Yeah.
huge. How does that transfer? That doesn't make sense to me. Like,
So I'll go with this.
and I've taken like
I don't know if
pills,
this is true.
and it was
So
like nothing to
horses-
horse meat.
Horses are an animal, I think, like elk, where their fat is like tallow,
Okay,
like deer fat. Like
yeah.
deer fat. Have you ever had venison fat?
I've had venison sausage.
Okay, so venison fat is fucking gross.
Okay,
If you've had venison sausage, there was probably like beef
Probably
fat, or
like
pork
beef fat in there.
used
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that makes
So-
sense.
It's fucking like hard and dry. It's not the same. Like it's not the same. Like if you have a piece of fat on a venison steak,
Hmm.
it's not gonna have that same. Like when you have a piece of fat on a really good piece of beef,
Yeah, you eat it.
and it adds to the flavor of the
Mhm.
beef and the texture, and it plays in. It's not the same. The
Okay.
venison fat is like this harder. It's like candle wax.
Okay.
Tallow. It's like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
waxy. And elk is the same thing. I wonder if it's because their fat intake is super minimal.
Maybe.
Like they eat greens predominantly.
I don't know.
They eat.
I feel
low
like I
fruit.
could fight a million people if I just ate horse every
When
day.
you come visit, we're gonna eat some elk steaks.
I want to eat horse
that'll be
again.
something we film.
I
Huh?
want to eat horse again and make another baby with my wife.
So I got some guys. We'll talk about it. I think it's
Yeah.
illegal to harvest horse.
No, but
in
I
the
mean, like
States.
you can.
But I know some farmers.
No, I mean you can. I actually did. I asked them like, well, you can't kill it to eat it, but if it's gonna be put down, you
That's what
can.
I'm saying. I know some farmers.
You can
There's
get
some
the
farmers
meat.
who
Yeah,
adopt horses who are,
gonna die. Yeah,
Yeah.
terminal. Yeah,
and then they feed them really well, and then they die, and then they're food.
dude, I just. That also too, like, I didn't believe them when they're like, here, eat this fucking horse steak, and I was like, okay.
It's
And
more
then-
minerally. I remember that. It's like
Yeah.
it's almost has like a livery taste.
I don't know
from
how
what
to.
I remember.
It's very unique, and it wasn't like I've taken pills while I was on like ecstasy to like fucking keep going, and like it was like
Uh-huh.
nothing compared to that, and also it was, I mean
Natural
like
goodness.
it was instant too. Like my body recognized it and was like,
Sure.
hey, you're jacked now. Also, like you can fuck as long as you want. But oh yeah, all right, we'll fucking do all the things. Like I'm gonna work out and then I'm gonna fucking go home and make my girlfriend be like, oh my god, this is not the same guy. Like yeah, it's horse meat, fucking horse meat.
Yeah.
Maybe that's
Well,
another
again,
reason why you can't.
If it's fucking full of minerals, it's got deep nutrient density, it's low fat, all those different
Yeah.
things. Like,
I love horses
but-
too, though.
we're gonna do an experiment. We're gonna like fast one day. We'll eat really low all through the day, or like at least
Yeah,
for
yeah,
several
yeah.
hours in the morning through. Because I'm not a breakfast guy anyway.
I can't.
I'm like a coffee and water guy.
diabetic. No, I do all the time by accident. I'm just fucking.
Oh, but,
Oh.
so
Oh, you're
what we'll do
diabetic. I had
is-
to fight for my food as a child. I'm sorry you had too much. Ugh.
but no, one thing we didn't have to fight for in my household was food. That was the
Yeah.
only way love was expressed. hence probably why I'm fat. But anyway,
Horse
fucking,
meat.
what do you get? And the horse meat.
Yeah,
But what do you call?
horse
We'll do an
meat.
experiment. We'll have a lean morning one day, and then
Okay.
we'll eat some fucking elk meat. We'll eat some elk steaks on the grill, and
Okay.
see if you feel charged up and fucking like you want to go take a hike or something. Since you hate nature, if you're into
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
then we'll know it has a fucking strong effect.
All right, that sounds good. I'm always down to eat different types of meat too.
So you know what? I don't think I've ever told this story. I believe I had a 7-animal meal once.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
We had. I wish I remember the name of this restaurant. It was like a wild game spot back in the day that used to be in like West Palm Beach.
Oh, I think I
And
know
we
exactly
had-
what you're talking. It's a 7-animal like platter or whatever.
Well, no, we
Right?
made it.
No.
It was like an appetizer that had
Oh.
like 3, and then there was another
guess not
meal
then.
that had 3. So one meal had.
Or you did it and they were like, "This is a thing now."
Maybe this was back in the day too, before this place got a lot of business, and it was like attached to
Mhm.
an outdoor store.
Okay.
And we got a platter of elk,
Okay.
venison.
I know what you're talking
kangaroo.
about. It used to be attached to Gander Mountain.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We got elk, venison,
That place
kangaroo,
is great, by the way.
frog legs, alligator tail,
That is where I saw something like that. Yeah.
pheasant,
Any
and then
animal
there was
that they
one
had.
more.
Yeah.
And then there was one more thing that we had ordered, and I was like, "How many different animals?" And they had that was it. Was like 7 animals. We're like, "Okay, we're
Yeah.
gonna taste each animal today," and that was the most animals I ate in one sitting. I would say.
Nice. Nice.
But I will say this: nothing is better, nothing, than going out on a camp out, hunting something, getting it, and fucking eating it. And I've never done it with the pig that I've gotten at the campsite. It's always like you let it, sit
Yeah.
and marinate and brine and shit because that meat's a little rougher. But with rabbit, it's one of the best fucking things ever
Nice.
to get out into a good spot in a field, sit down comfortably, and then just sit there with a 22 or a little shotgun or whatever and plink some bunnies, and then collect your fucking bunnies, walk back to camp, and know like, oh, good. As the sun starts getting towards dusk, I'll go get piggies, but for now, I'm going to grill up some fucking curry bunny or whatever, or make some rabbit stew and let that sit on the fire until I come back from the port. Oh, man.
Nice.
That kind of
That sounds
experience
like
is
fun.
the ones that I want to start getting on film as we go into the next phase. And this
Right.
this little level up that we've had today has really, really, really motivated me to.
We could also,
'cause
like,
now
Without the
that I'm done
cameras
rec-
on, just like hang out like this too. That's the other
well,
thing.
for sure.
Yeah.
This is way easier than the phone.
Yes.
But fucking in the near future, when we start doing location stuff again, now that I'm not in the midst of recording the album, Midnight Fire's album will be out sometime by the end of the summer. Check us out. Me and Michael
Yeah.
Morrison putting together our vocal skills and Michael's compositional skills to bring back the art of the soul country ballad. But anyway,
Ooh.
fucking that's what I would call it. It's like an album of balladry. But now that that's not happening right now, and especially before we do any shows on that,
Mhm.
I'm fucking excited to say like, hey, we plan it out. We're gonna go to Asheville or fucking Austin or fucking Utah and whatever, and spend 3 days and film the whole fucking time we're there, and fucking we're gonna go to Montana and sit at a campsite and bring a cooler full of meat and fucking
I
film
love
us eating it.
Montana.
You know what I mean? Like that is
Yeah.
the next step, and I'm super excited for that shit.
Yeah.
That is gonna be the pièce de résistance for me, as far as like what we're building toward, where we can actually facilitate that. And for all of anybody listening to this, like, if you like it, all the one of you,
Yes.
if you like it, share it, send it to your friends, let them hear us talking shit, tell them to talk shit back to us and tell us what we can do better or worse, or to go
Yeah.
fuck ourselves, or that they love us, whatever, and help us build this weird little world that we're trying to build. As I knock a bunch of shit off my desk, yeah, help us build this world, because that's all we want to do is make cool shit for people to watch.
Yeah. Well, and what I think I like about it is that it's just it's what we like to do. It's what we like to have fun, like to hang
I
out.
like to eat and talk shit.
Yep. Pretty much.
Talk shit and bitch about our bitch ass peers who
Yes.
aggravate us, and then also,
But also
highly tout
love
the
them.
ones who impress us.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, big fucking shout out. I'm sure Mike will be making a cool video of this soon. Night before Easter Sunday, earlier this month, we had the privilege of being out at a show with Spread the Dub and the Sons of a Tradesman. And what a fucking great show those guys put on. What fucking fun. I had the pleasure of being brought on stage to sing some songs with those boys, and I really had the fucking time of my month, without question. It was a fucking blast. I cannot wait to get some of those boys back on the show.
Yeah.
We should hit up Alonzo really soon. He's a fun guest.
And he uses this, so it would be like really high quality too.
Yes. He's a Discord guy.
And
as
he
well.
knows how to switch from his phone to his computer back and forth. So when he goes out to pee and drink and smoke at the same time, we don't lose him.
We don't lose him. Yeah, I love it. I think it's awesome. And that's the next step, peeps. We're trying to like level up over and over again. We want to like make things that are great. And if you guys have any ideas of stuff we could watch and react to, things you want to see us cook and or eat, I'm gonna have Mike find me somewhere to eat some balut. We should do a video of that.
Okay.
We should go out of our way to have experiences and share them with anybody who wants to join us on that adventure. And I think that's the next step is us leveling up every time we can.
There's plenty of duck eggs where I live.
There's actually a place right down the way from my house where you can buy duck and goose eggs. So we can maybe make some when you're in town.
They got to be fertilized though. Like I'm talking like I literally almost ran over like 30 ducks out of the 100 pack of baby ducks in my neighborhood.
I bet we could
just go pluck a couple of them.
I bet we could go talk to these folks and see.
Yeah, all right.
If they can get us to fertilize that.
We'll probably just be like, hey, do you have balut? Oh yeah, right here.
Pinoy delicacy. They might know it. Hey, listen, the Asian community in Georgia is a lot larger than in South Florida. That's the only thing that I feel like in South Florida is not a bigger part of the melting pot.
The Filipinos are like organized down here.
They are. They aren't.
They are. It's very strange. There's not that many of them, but like they know me, so like, and my great.
Maybe that's why it's more easier to be organized because there's not as many people to organize.
There's a last little thing about being Filipino. So like, there was this. I assumed he was
Don't make it to last. I like all these little Filipino things.
No, I just worked at St. Mary's Hospital, and there was this little Filipino nurse, and I could have sworn he was gay, but his wife was fucking hot. Maybe it was his beard or whatever. Anyway, he was like very condescending and shitty to me, and then like he was trying to be like condescending nice to me, and he was showing me like all of his like well, you are Filipino from America, but I am from the Philippines, and then like was showing me like places that he lived, and then like he was showing me money, and I was like, oh yeah, that's my great grandpa, and he's like, what? It was great. It was like a great moment. And I was like,
your accent is so fucking good, bro.
Well, I mean,
the Filipino accent.
It's the same like with you, like Italian and like Cuban, because like you grew up with them. But yeah, I love it.
Well, I love how people. I'm sure you run across this. People hear it in their own way. I'm sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where like,
well,
because like for me, Italian accent in America isn't really the Italian accent. Everybody thinks of the New York, like Brooklyn, thing. But like for me, like I grew up with real guineas in my house where my great
it almost like, sounds.
I'm gonna break your neck. Yeah. I'm gonna crack your head until you bleed from your eye.
Yeah.
Like fucking like
the
shit
real,
like that. Like that's real guinea shit.
Yeah. But like, I feel like the Filipino.
Could you imagine an old lady telling you when you're like a young child?
Yeah,
I'm gonna crack your head.
Yeah.
Until you bleed from your eye. You lazy rotten son of a bitch. That's what she'll call me. She'll call my brother Manaje Cornut, and she'll call me. He's the lazy rotten son of a bitch.
Grandma, you're calling your daughter
yeah, you're calling your granddaughter, and she go kill all the puta, and that other bitch. Dude. My sister's godmother was this nice, chubby Irish woman. May she rest in peace. I don't do the sign of the cross often, but she was very Catholic, and she was a sweet lady. And when she came around to help out when my sister was very, very young, like a baby, my brother was like, I don't know, like 6 or something, and I was like 9 maybe. And my great grandmother was deep into her 80s, and was horribly offended that my mother brought a stranger, a stranger, around
Mm-hmm.
to take care of the children. And she's like, "Io, stick out! Like I'm
Oh, yeah.
fucking here."
You told me
She's
about
like,
this, yeah.
"Putan, stalo!" Like, bitch, I'm here. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm next to you. And my mother being like, "They're fucking wild, grandma. They're gonna be in and out of the house running." And she goes, "I break, I'm mit dem brond, I'll fucking hit him in the head." And this woman, Mitzi, who was nothing but nice, just got the worst treatment from my grandmother. And we had this family across the street from us called the Sekesans. They were from somewhere
It's like
Slavic.
Slovakian. Yes.
They were
I've heard
from
this
somewhere
story.
Slavic. And
Yes.
they didn't speak the same language as my grandmother. She didn't speak this, but they spoke the same language.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they had, the great grandma was called Baba, and she would sit on the porch with a handkerchief and smoke cigarettes. And my great grandmother would go over there and they would just smoke cigarettes next to each other and be like, "Yeah, everybody else is a piece of shit." Like, but they weren't even speaking, but that was the
Yeah.
vibe. And Peter was the guy's name, and he had, I don't know if you can say midget now, but he had little people fingers.
Okay.
I remember my stepdad would go like this, "Hey, Peter," like this, and they would collect rainwater, and they had pigeons and shit in their backyard
Okay.
that they would probably, yeah, like, you know, what do you call, what are they called? Squab, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And fucking Lena was the wife, and she had this big lump on her head, and she was super nice. She looked like a caricature from a fucking Tolstoy book or some shit, and she would make these donuts, bro. When I was a kid, I'd be like, "Ew, they're not like Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts." If I would fucking punch a nun in the mouth to get one of these now. It was a donut with a glaze that was so sweet, and it had the density in one donut of like an entire loaf of bread, like
Nice.
condensed
Yeah,
into
it
one. It was,
it was like coffee
fucking
cake
good.
consistency. Yeah.
But no, not crumbly, like soft, like a donut
But
kind of.
spongy. Like a cake.
Bro, it was. I can't even liken it to anything. It was so unique. I wish I could go like on a tour of Slovakian foods,
Yeah,
so I could
Eastern
find this
Europe,
fucking
yeah.
donut, dude. And my grandmother
But,
turned these folk. And then there was Vince and Anne next door to us. They were French and Italian, and the wife was American. They didn't have kids, so they didn't have grandkids. So they were super nice to me and my little brother. They'd be like, "Oh, play in our yard too. You can play in our yard. Just don't hurt
Yeah.
the fig tree." He would paint my brother's bike every other. My brother always wanted a different color bike, so Vince would paint it for my brother. My great grandmother turned all these people against this fucking poor
Oh
woman.
no.
So they're all like watching her now and looking. And I remember being in the backyard playing, and Mitzi like yelling at me and my brother for something that we did in the house, and Lena being like, "No yell to them." And then we look up, and Lena is in our alley watching us. Like,
Oh no.
it was old school community shit.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like, I loved that. And I just remember my mother being like so overwrought with frustration because my grandmother was actively torturing this fucking. She would
So-
call her like "kid da putan," this pig nosed bitch, like all this shit.
So, like, I've talked to you about this show that I saw recently with the Filipino kids, and there wasn't like Filipino dishes that they were
No.
serving.
Oh yes, we talked about this
Yeah.
like 2 podcasts ago, maybe.
This
or was
is
this just
yeah,
conversation
a
between
couple.
us?
It was a couple podcasts ago, but like that,
Yes,
that's what
okay,
upsets
yes.
me. Like when I think of Filipino community, I think of it looks like a fucking Hawaiian luau plus like
Yes.
heroin, like or
Yes.
like crack, or
Yeah.
like fucking
Or just
speed.
more sitting on the floor in communal bowls.
Just lots of like it looks dirtier, but like people are trying to dress up. And when I
People
say
don't
Hawaiian
understand, though, when you grew
luau,
up in a third world country, you don't. It's just different. Dirty's different.
but no,
to
no.
you. Like,
but like so there's like traditional Hawaiian luau's that like look a certain way. What I'm talking about with Filipinos is like when you as a white person go to Hawaii in an all-inclusive resort and they put on the luau where everybody's wearing traditional cheesy Ed Hardy Hawaiian stuff. No, that's the luau I'm talking about that Filipinos have been having in their backyards in America forever. So like I always find that hilarious, and like
yes.
the food that I know to be at those and the sense of community that like of type of shit that you're talking about that I know to be around the Filipino people, even though my grandmother and her like 5 friends were like the fucking snobs of the community, it still didn't matter. They were still Filipino, and the people that like worshipped my great grandfather were still fucking Filipino, you know? Like
Sure,
it's
sure, yeah.
and then I watched this
But
fucking
it's almost
special.
like an understanding that goes beyond one community, right? It's like an
But they-
immigrant understanding, right?
But like these kids that are like bringing Filipino food to Seattle. It's so many quotations because I was just pissed. I saw one lumpia on one plate, and I have never been to a Filipino event where there wasn't lumpias as far as the eye could see, in different sizes with different fillings. All of them have vinegar and soy sauce in them though. And then and I saw the person eating that lumpia later on in the episode, and it looked dry as fuck, and it didn't look like there was anything like
That is
real
not
in
delicious.
it. And I was like, that's not a fucking lumpia. And like the shit that they mixed like Filipino and Hawaiian food together, and I was like, you better not let your Hawaiian or Filipino, because the one guy was like, yeah, I'm Hawaiian and Filipino. I'm like, you better not let your Hawaiian parent and your Filipino parent see that you're fucking mixing their disc.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
Well, not
and
even
good thing they
that,
live in Hawaii and you live in Seattle, because they would fucking swim over here and beat the fuck out of you. That
feeling is marbled through the food world, I think, because nothing infuriates me more. Nothing. And
like
I feel
modern
the ghost
Italian,
of my saintly Italian mother.
Yeah.
I feel my.
I already know where you're going.
Italian mother's ghost spinning in her grave. Okay, rattling the bones. When I see dry spaghetti with like a dollop of pasta, you know the classic American
the commercial
image.
The commercial pasta.
This thick ragu sitting on top of this nest of pasta with like 2 meatballs on top of it. It is the least accurate representation of Italian food that you will ever see, and it's the most pervasive.
Yeah.
First of all, in a real Italian restaurant, you're not going to see the meatballs in the fucking spaghetti.
They're on their own plate.
You have a spaghetti and you have a meatballs. Not together. Now, in my house, I make them together because I have a kid.
Yeah.
Right. I throw the meatball, but and truly, that is a more Italian American take on the food. But if you go to Italy, based on the region, you're going to eat a bunch of fucking seafood if you're at the coast. Mm-hmm. You're going to eat a lot of stuff with olive oil. Like, man, when I hopefully one day have the opportunity to visit Italy, I want to have cacio e pepe. I want to have... People don't know what the fuck real versions of those foods are. You know what I mean? Like, it's
funny that you
real
said
frustrating.
Cacio e pepe, because Crystal wanted to eat some of that or something, like she wanted to order that somewhere, and like she wasn't sure that they had it, and I as I do, even especially to Filipinos, make fun of the way words sound would sound in English, and I was just like calling it like cat penis or whatever, or like cock I'm like cock penis and all this shit, and like and she was like, don't say that. It's like, there's Italian people. And then like the kids that were a little bit younger than us, they were like, yeah, that's funny. No, like we do that too. And I was like, see, Kristen, she's like, and she should know by now that it's always like, she always thinks that it's a one-off thing when I'm being crass.
You're gonna make Italians upset. Is you're like legitimately disrespecting food. Like there was a great video that I saw. I mean, a great one. I believe it was Napoli.
You're all robot-y.
What's that? Your
robot voice.
Oh no, am I roboting now?
Oh yeah, you're roboting hard right now.
Oh no! Hold on. We'll do the classic maneuver hand.
Okay, and now you're frozen.
Okay, hold on. How are we now?
It's still quite robot-y. It's
Damn.
It's the internet. It's not doing so good. It's the internet. It's not your stuff.
It's not you. It's me.
It's the internet.
Nothing on, man.
It's funny because it's the internet. And now you're 100% inaudible. I heard Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Nope. I barely heard. How about now? Oh, smooth. You're smooth on the screen. Talk.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You're back. Ooh,
all right. We had a lag there, huh?
Yeah.
What were we talking about before that? We were talking about food and.
The only way like Italians will be really mad is if like you're genuinely disrespecting food.
Yeah, I watched a great video where people in Napoli ordered pizza, and they fucking brought pineapple pizza to them. And I never saw so much violence initiated over food.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I think maybe that's why that one ex that I had, her grandmother fucking loved me, because like anything she put in front of me, I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like, and I would
that's
stop
the way to an
talking.
Italian mom's heart, is to eat all her food for sure.
Well, I'd stop talking to her granddaughter. Like, I'd be like, yeah, we going over to your grandmother's house? She's like, yeah, like I live there now. I'm like, sweet. Like, I'm definitely putting a baby in you. And she was like, what? I'm like, your grandmother tells me to do all the time. She says, just fucking put a baby in you. And I'm like,
the baby.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. I'll fucking eat her food and live here all the time.
Mix the baby, yeah?
Yeah. She didn't care.
That's hilarious.
And I cooked with her because I wanted to make... She asked me, she's like, why do you want to, like, learn to cook this stuff? I'm like, I'm fat.
And again...
I'm like, I'm fat. I want to make
you get that whole
too.
thing, that whole stereotype of Italians from Spike Lee movies where they're all, like, racist or a Bronx Tale. That's Italian Americans.
Yeah, not Italian.
Marvin Hagler went to Italy because they were nicer to him there. Now, and I'm not going to say that there's not stories of like soccer players getting mistreated in Italy or Spain or where, but
there's racism everywhere.
There's racism everywhere, as unfortunate as it is. But it's two different cultures. It's distinctive. It's just like the Cubans that came here.
Well, it was even
flights, and it was even came here in Mariel.
You had
it's a
both,
different generation.
though. But like you had both, but like they still weren't. That's why like I like Spike Lee, but he leans a little bit too hard on like white people, what he assumes they are, in my opinion.
It's like anything else, though, right? That's his
take on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like it was. I feel like this family that I was talking to was like the same as yours, where like the grandparents were from Italy, and then like the girl's parents that I was dating were Italian American, the way we traditionally know them, and then she was like traditionally like the Italian princesses that were our age growing up that were super spoiled.
What I see over and over again is a robbery of culture that happens in America. And I've said it before, black people in this country were robbed with the whip and a chain, and white people, for lack of a better term, because, that's not really like black and white to me are like these terms that get utilized in favor of division, but like there's different cultures that exist within those, you know what I mean? But white people got robbed with a pen and paper. And it's the same thing where if you buy into either one of those identities, I think you lose something of what you are really. Yeah. Because being from Barbados,
it's just
isn't
like you
it's
said.
A culture in and of itself.
Yeah, like you said.
Or being from Japan, being from wherever. It's not a white or a black thing. It's a culture of that one individual place. If you're from Baltimore and you're black, you're going to have a specific culture than if you're from Alabama and you're black. You know what I mean? It's about where you're from.
That get mad at people like us get even more mad when the person or race or culture that they're defending welcomes us more than them. And that is I wear that like a badge of honor, Well,
and
like,
I think that goes to
like
the welcome comes from honest exchange.
Yes, exactly.
Like I have friends who don't agree with me on shit, but they know where I'm coming from and they know my intention and my meaning, and they understand that if I have questions, they're coming from a genuine place, or if I have an opinion, it's coming from some degree of thought, and it can be changed. You know what I mean? Like that opinion can be changed. So like I value the fact that I have so many friends with so many varying opinions, because to me that's how I'm gonna develop myself into the best version of me that I could be, right? Like, and that's what I see stagnated in a lot of our peers, where you have guys like you, me, Mike, Marlon, any number of those are just the dudes that I'm the closest with or whatever, but like all vastly different, all willing to sit down and discuss it.
Yes.
And all willing to say I do or I don't agree, still love you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's all good. It's all love either way. I don't agree. There's not a lot of deal breakers on the table because you know the person's intention. You know the person's heart. You know what I mean? Like you know what it means. And I see a lot of people who don't do that work to figure that part out.
We get
and
that.
And it's just like, you are this.
Yeah.
Boom. You are this.
We've talked about that in our own group. We've talked about this abstract idea in our own group too, where like you and I aren't there all the time. Marlon and Mike are out all the time. People know them. people
because
think
they work in that world.
Yeah, people
constantly.
think they know them. People think they're buddy. But I have hung out with Marlon a handful of times. He has been bombarded with people on that corner, and then has come up to, and he's like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" But has come up to me and said hello, and I've literally had somebody I don't know like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "I'm just his friend." Like, I'm genuinely just trying to be his
You were there with
friend.
me recently, where someone said to me, "You know all the cool people."
Yeah. You know all the cool people. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like I just know the few people that I fucking know, man. Like
Mhm.
that's your decision
It's
if they're
all
cool
the-
or not. Like,
Yeah, it's like I like that. Like, but I love
It's a
that.
weird
Who
grasp.
are you? And it's like, I'm just a real person
like-
and then these people are just friends with me because I think they recognize that I just want to be friends with them. I'm not trying to get anything from them.
sure.
And you
And that's the other
seem
thing, too.
to be coming up to
Agree.
them immediately, wanting something from them.
Yes.
That's
But again,
why they
agree,
come up to
disagree,
us.
Whatever it is, there's an understanding that like we could even be on the outs, but I respect that person.
Yeah.
And
I feel like
care.
I
You
feel
know what
like
I mean? Like,
that specific group of people, the four of us that you talked about, like,
yeah.
like some shit could be
And
going down.
I mention those guys specifically a lot of the times because we're all so vastly different.
Yeah.
Even me and Mike, who are so alike in a lot of ways, me and Morrison, like, we're so different at the same time. We are not
I was
in
gonna
any way
make a
exact, you know what I mean?
hypothetical situation where I think where like some shit would be going down, and the three of you would be like, "All right, Mike, get back," and I'd be like, "Okay," but then like halfway through the fight or whatever, you're like, "Uh-oh, this could be going bad," and then I'm the crazy guy that would hit people with the van and be like, "All right, you guys can get, all right, guys, get in. You guys look tired. Come on, I'll run over people till we're out of
Yeah.
here." Like,
Sure.
like I don't
Sure,
care
you
what
need-
we're like where
you
we
need
are.
all those bases covered.
Yeah, I'm the guy in
Yes.
the wheelchair in the
Listen,
A-team that
I'll
drives
put it
the
to you
van.
like you want to lay it down like that. Even if you take that group of four for our action movie that we're producing, right?
Yeah, yes.
Morrison's the first guy into the fray. He's
Yeah.
going in out of a sense of like justice and a sense of.
He's the reason we're filming the movie. Type of
Right.
deal.
He's
Yeah.
there. He's the Rock.
Yes.
He's Dwayne Johnson, right?
Yeah.
He's Arnold Schwarzenegger, right?
Yeah.
I'm Carl Weathers. Okay? He's like, Bennett, you son of a bitch. That's
You
me.
son of a bitch. Yes.
Marlon is fucking Jesse Ventura.
Oh yeah.
Because if it
Let's
gets
light
to the
shit
point
on
where
fire.
that guy's fighting, it's a fucking real fight. Because Marlon's
Yeah.
not trying to have that shit.
Yeah.
He's trying to do business. He's trying to live life. He's not trying to have that shit. But if you push him to that place, it's because he doesn't have another option. He's
Yeah.
not that guy. He's not like a bully at all.
Mhm.
You've seen him in I've seen that guy swallow his pride over and over again because people say the stupidest shit, and he's not a guy who's going to be like drunk as fuck on the Ave all the time where that shit
Yeah.
just rolls off in a drunken way. Because I've heard people come up to him and be like, "Oh, are you this guy? You're that guy?" And he's like, "No, man, that's just another black guy that you're talking about." Like, and that's why when
I
his opinion differs
understand-
from mine when it
I
comes to race shit,
understand his opinions.
I don't
on that
fucking
shit.
get
Yeah,
it. I
exactly,
totally,
yeah.
I can see where he's coming from because it's like,
Mhm.
man, I see it. I see
Yeah,
it.
man.
And people also, I see this with him and Mike also. People want them to be their black friend. In a lot of cases. That's what it seems like to me. I've had that situation in that there's a weird status thing in that group. There's
Yeah.
a weird thing.
As many
and it's like,
minorities.
you know how many
and
times I've
gay
had people like, "Oh, you're Cuban? That's cool." Why?
Yeah.
Why is that cool? Shut up. It's not cool to me that your fucking mom was Irish and your dad is Swiss. Leave me alone. Like, what do you mean?
The only
Like,
thing
I like Kerrygold cheese. That doesn't mean shit about you. You didn't do that. Like, I'm not, nothing. Castro's got fucking dick to do with me. Like, I don't fucking have any.
See-
Arroz con pollo is not my invention.
How I make friends, I feel like, is when people would be like, "Oh, you're Cuban, that's cool." If somebody was like, "Blah blah blah, I'm Cuban," I'd be like, "Oh yeah." So, whenever I used to walk the streets and meet random people, I would get fucked up the best with Cubans, and I feel like, and people would be like, and I would like say
That's
some
different.
stereotype or something.
Well, it's like with you and me, where I was like, "Oh, Pinoy people make food a lot like Cuban people."
Yeah. Like,
You know what I mean? We're
I
like,
think
you guys
that's
have,
why our
or I think
palate
it was
is
actually
very
you guys
similar.
have the only pork that we will say is better than our pork.
Yeah, and
Your lechon
vice
is the
versa.
only one that will say.
I mean, vice
Yeah.
versa
Yeah.
too. Like, because we make them the same, like in a fucking box. Like it's it might as well be the same. We're just two different, same
well, that's
island,
another compliment
two different
too,
places.
that people don't recognize. Where it's like
The food.
my dad would do this thing. So many. My boy Gabe is Hungarian. He's white. But my dad would be like, "Gabriel, You sure you're not Cuban? You sure you don't have a little Cuban in there?
Yeah. No.
You know what I mean? That would be like a
Yeah,
thing.
no, I hear Filipinos
that you always
do that
like,
shit all the time. Well, maybe.
Where it's like such an endearment
Yes.
thing that you don't even realize.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
I've had with black friends. My dad. That was the only. My dad was racist, plain and simple. But the only like I hate when people try and like, oh, you know, he was born different. No, my dad was because my grandfather was born way before that. Not racist. It's just. Although my dad had a couple black kids, as far as I know. But anyway, when I had a black friend that he would like,
He'd
he
be
would
like, "Oh,
always
he's a bit Cuban."
assume they're Cuban, even without asking. He would just. I think part of it was almost like his own
he had
cognitive
to
dissonance. Yeah, he had to shut it down because his own shit. So that's the thing too. Like, I get the idea of like calling out what's racist around you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I get that shit. I just wish everybody did that shit.
Yeah.
Like, I wish everybody did it earnestly because everybody's really eager to like point it at other people.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like me, when I'll like,
we talk about this a lot. The whole racist Asian and Latino.
I get
dynamic.
hushed a lot just for describing my experiences that seem stereotypical with certain races, and I'm like, I don't understand why you're shushing me. I'm talking about my friends to this new person that I just met, and it sounds like they know exactly what I'm talking about, and in some cases they know exactly who I'm talking about, and they're like, oh shit, you're my cousin's friend? That's cool. No, now I know you. Now we're like cool. And these other people that are trying to be friends with them to validate themselves because now they have a new insert ethnicity here friend. I'm just like the guy that they hate that gets along with people, and I love it. I just love it. That's one of my favorite things.
That was a thing that
because I'm a people.
I think that's what bonded you and I from the first time that we met in person. Even online, but when we first met in person, we had a candid conversation.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of virtue signaling or trying to see what we just were like, this is how I feel about things.
Yeah.
Bah!
These
you know
are the terrible things that I say.
With you about what's that?
I told you this is the terrible shit I say to Spanish people about Spanish.
Yes. Well, yes. And again, it was like that thing where we honesty's so underutilized. I feel like now.
Yeah.
Like, I remember even telling you how vulnerable I felt because I hadn't gone to go meet anybody in forever. So I was like, is there gonna be a picture of me on the internet saying like fat sad man eats buffet alone? Like, am I being trolled? You know what I mean? Because you never know. That's the world. You don't know who the fuck feels what way, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I always look at things like that and go like, well, what's the reason that worked out the way it did? We both were just open.
Yeah.
You had people at that time telling you they wanted to hurt you on the internet, so you could have easily been like just the same way. Like, I hope this guy isn't friends with assholes who want to jump me. Oh, you know what I mean? Like,
I assume anybody that I'm meeting that's in Mike's friend group is like, they're like, oh, I'm gonna befriend this guy so I can beat him up for my buddy.
And that's one of those things where you just like,
well, I hope this doesn't happen.
You realize too that like being candid all the time isn't what people fucking do. It's not the norm. It's not even remotely the norm. People don't even allow themselves to be honest in like speculation or contemplation of an idea anymore. And I think that's the difference between people who are making cool shit and people who are sitting in the wings and sitting in the rafters waiting to point and critique and vilify stuff. I think the difference is that there's a lot of people out here like you, like me, like the guys who are active in the scene playing music even through the pandemic, the guys like Marlon who are fucking hustling and grinding. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to, fall in line to earn each other's respect.
Yeah.
And to develop like an appreciation for what each other believes and for just what each individual person is. And that's what we're losing now, I think, like as a generation. I think we're losing the ability to be like, hey, we don't agree. Let's talk about it. Let's chat it up. And even recently with other people in our friend group, I feel like there's been misconstrued like feelings or conversations, and you realize like, oh, like we're not really on the same level that I thought we were on, where we can have this candid conversation without somebody.
Go back to bed. Sorry.
Oh, it's all right. What's that?
I was telling my son to go back to bed.
Well, anyway, no, it's fucking 12:45. This was a good long one, and easily a long one as well. Fucking, I actually have a 10 a.m. appointment at the doc tomorrow because
Oh, yeah.
my wife's making me get all my parts tuned up so I can live longer, which is just
Nice.
seems boring. But
I gotta take my kid to
Uh-oh.
school at 6:30, so yeah, I think
Woo!
6:37,
Well-
whatever. Yeah.
Luckily, I don't have to wake up until about 8:30 to be there on time. I don't have to leave my house till like 9:30. So, but this has been a fucking fun one. We leveled up, level up, level up, level up. Fill your fucking cup. Anyway, check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. Find us on Patreon. Like us. Share us with your friends. Any of the
Comment.
dozen people that will end up watching this at some point in time. If you really are watching this to support us, please share so that we can get more people interested in what we're doing. We're trying to create a cool little universe here that we can enjoy and share with everybody that we love. To all of our guests, get ready because it's going to be level up time next time you come on. We'll be able to hear each other. That'll be nice.
And my burps.
Ooh, all the farts and the snoring puppy.
And get ready for get ready for the videos that we're gonna produce at the end of the month here. It's gonna be a lot.
Yeah,
of
end of this month, beginning
stuff.
of next month, we're going to be producing a cluster of videos. We'll be having some new Tom Eats that comes out on the channel. We'll be having some new cooking with LSD or LSD cooks, and we'll be having just generally a little block of stuff coming out soon for you guys to enjoy and to come along with us and have fun as we figure out the world around us as dads and mediocre everything else. But join us, won't you, as LSD continues down this journey. If you can hear the sound of my voice, it's over.